My absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your horoscopes for June of 2026. And June, after the end of May being, I think, very busy energetically, and before a very, very busy July, June feels like a little bit of an oasis, and we're coming more internally and coming more to our sense of safety and security as we're moving through the Cancerian energy. Now in June, we are also going to experience Mercury stepping into its retrograde in this Cancerian area. So we're doing a lot of review about what does the Cancer area of your chart mean. If you've been feeling something shift inside of you and you haven't been quite able to put your finger on it or bring a confirmation to that, I think you get an opportunity during this Mercury retrograde to really do some good review. Now, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that all of the timestamps are going to be in the description box down below, so you can go to each of the individual signs and have a listen at a bit more depth as to what is going on for each of the signs. And if you really want the magic out of this month, make sure that you have your own natal chart, because the best astrology is your astrology, and we just can't produce that if we don't have your natal chart. So you can click in my description box down below and check that out. I've also got some astrology tools and resources for you that you can see here on the screen, and access to all of them is also in the description box down below. Now, besides having this Mercury retrograde happening this month, we have also got Venus and Mercury, coming back in bounds this month. And that is important because it's another piece of what makes it seem like the energy is kind of softening and stabilizing a little bit, particularly personally for you. But as it's stabilizing, new ideas, new conceptions, new understandings of value will be in your possession to be able to use the new moon that's happening this month to build life in the direction that you would really like to go. Now, the big news of the month is that we've got Chiron moving into the vibration of Taurus, and this is going to be a really big story. Chiron only comes to Taurus once every 50 years. So we've got some work to do here, and really looking at the long-term healing process around the Taurus qualities: self-worth, value, receiving, safety in your body, your resources, and some deeper down wounds about feeling secure around your resources. So this will be a story in and of itself. Don't worry, I'll be making a separate video on both the Chiron moving into Taurus and then also our next big ticket item, which is Jupiter moving into Leo. Now, right away, this is going to take us back to 2014. In your chart to look at what was happening at that time for you. As Jupiter entered into Leo last time, where were you expanding? Where was there an expansion or a learning around confidence, visibility, or self-expression? When you go back, remember, you were learning and growing, and part of the getting the wisdom that you have now comes from the experience. You have to have the experience to gain the wisdom. So now that this energy is returning, you immediately are moving into a position where you do have some wisdom to bring to your own table. And this is an invitation to move forward, not just from the pure, unadulterated ego, but you're moving more from a space of authenticity as Jupiter is in Leo this time, particularly because you know where in your chart and the timing to go back to look at to see what you were doing last time. All right, my beautiful friends, I want you to jump in, check out all 12 of your signs. If you have not yet jumped into the Venus Reset program, I'm telling you, as this Chiron gets into Taurus, your relationship with Venus is really going to come into question. And sometimes it's just so hard to know where to even start or where to begin in the softening, in becoming empowered, in resetting your nervous system. You know, we can't always just jump in here and go all deep. Sometimes we just need a nice soft place to start at the beginning and begin our learning, and the Venus Reset program is an amazing place for you to explore. I love you a ton. Jump in and see what June has to unfold for you. My absolutely brilliant and beautiful Aries friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026, where this month, Aries, there's a lot going on in houses 3, 4, 5. Let's not forget that you've got a whole bunch of planets, mostly Saturn and Neptune hanging out in your sign as well. So this is also going to bring continued work of that flavor to the table. But we've got some other planets that are moving around. So this is a month for you, Aries, where you might honestly find yourself thinking through something. You know what I mean? Like you're having to think it through, you're needing to feel it quite deeply, and then what you're feeling about, you're thinking about, and what you're thinking about, you're feeling about. And then at the end of that funnel, you're being asked to express it in a new way. So it's a very layered experience, I think, for your spirit happening this month. So let's jump in and walk through this together. And of course, please make sure that you have your own natal chart so you can see exactly where this is happening in your chart. All right, right here at the beginning of the month, we've got Mercury, who's getting ready for some retrograde activity, but it is moving first into the vibration of Cancer. Now, as Mercury, our thinking, speaking, processing information planet, moves into the watery terrain of Cancer, we move into a space where, first of all, the mind is turning more inwards, right? We're going more towards my home, towards my security, towards my emotional life. We're also moving a lot more towards emotional and intuitive intelligence. When Mercury moves into a water placement, our emotional intuitive intelligence really gets brought to the surface. And the only way to practice these things is to practice these things. So for some of you, particularly because this lights up your fourth house space of home, family, real estate, property, all places that Cancer naturally rules over anyways, you might be thinking about moving, or you're changing your house, you're changing your space, you're having deeper conversations with family members that are around you. Perhaps this is a time where you're really reflecting on things from your childhood or from your past or something like that. There's just a noticing of some emotional content. And again, you're thinking about, how did that make you feel? You know, it's not entirely logical. That's what I really want to point out here. It's not entirely logical. You're thinking emotionally with what's happening here. So it will also indicate to us that while Mercury is doing this travel, your decisions need to come from a place of that emotional, intuitive intelligence. And those places, maybe why you're questioning them, is because you're seeing what still feels safe. Versus, yes, this just makes sense on paper. It's like, does this actually feel safe to me? All right, on the 7th, we've got Venus coming back inbounds. And I think it is important for us to be paying attention to this energy, because share your experiences with me. In May, when Venus went out of bounds, what was your experience? Now we'll compare it to, as Venus comes back inbounds and over this next couple months, what your experience is. So first of all, that out of bounds energy, I'll put a video I did with Tony Howard on out of bounds planets so we can really go into that. But because the energy goes out of bounds, it's operating outside of its normal limits. It's not under the governance of the sun anymore, right? So it's like it's not playing by the rules. So Venus has not been playing by the rules. Good for her. So things could feel a bit more exaggerated or a bit more unpredictable. You might have noticed that you had this hopefully, what I hope you got to experience was a heightened sense of being able to receive and slow down and have a relationship with receiving and rest in ways that you never have before. That is as out of bounds as anything else. But other things is that this can make your emotions and your experiences around your relationships or your money feel all over the place. The energy is all over the place. I want more attention. I want more affection. Also, get away from me. Now, as Venus is coming back inbounds here on the 7th, think about this it's coming more into a grounded, governed space. So the energy is not shooting all over the place. Now, if this was your experience, please share it with me in the conversation, in the comment section down below. On the 12th, we've got Mercury entering into its pre-retrograde shadow time. So this is where you're going to officially, at 16 degrees of Cancer, locate that on your chart. Start to pay attention to what's slowing down. 16 degrees, 19 minutes. What's starting to come up and come to your attention at that degree point in your chart, because that is going to be a part of this process that we are going to be in review of all the way until we get until August, okay? Now, this is the pre-retrograde shadow time. So conversations could be coming up and there's no real resolution to them, or the resolution feels like it's kind of a cliffhanger in some way, or you're thinking about something, but you're not really finalizing it yet. This is Cancer, so maybe even some kind of emotional realization that you're having, but it's still like in process. So this is where I would just say to you, there's no rush in the decisions. Be with the process of it, right? You're in the setup phase for whatever's going to be coming next. Now on June 13th, we're going to see that Venus enters into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your fifth house space, joy, pleasure, play, self-expression. There's romance that's in here. The courage to begin something new comes to this place as well. But having Venus come into the fifth house, remember Venus is a calling in, not a hustle hard planet. And honestly, I think that this is where things feel good. It feels like there's some pleasure that is available and back on the table. You know, this is your creativity. This is that dating life. This is joy. This is confidence. This is self-expression. And it feels more like you. Leo is fire like you are. So there is some resonance. It's open. It's a little bit more expansive. It is a great time to do all sorts of things. One of which is to express what you need to express. Many of us are becoming content creators, even if you think you're not. You're becoming a content creator of some variety, or maybe you're feeling more called. You've had enough content and you want to go outside and you want to experience the content of other human beings. Maybe you want to flirt. Maybe you just want to enjoy life. Call that in right now. Also, Venus in the fifth house. Great way to use your expression to tell resources to come to you. Come to you. Right? Venus is a call it in planet. What do you value? What kind of validation is the kind that brings a true joy to you? Right? In Leo, we are not looking for the selfish 6 sides of validation. We're looking for what is it that you want eyes on you for? This is a great energy for that. Now on the 14th, we've got a new moon happening in Gemini, and this is going to light up your third house space of communications, siblings, conversations. Maybe you're writing a book, you're in a network, you're learning something, you're teaching something, you're negotiating something. That's the third house energy. Now on the same day, Mercury is coming back in bounds, who also went out of bounds as we were traveling in May. So now Mercury is also back in bounds. So this particular new moon, I think, has the content of planting your seeds of intention with new ideas that you gathered while Mercury was out of bounds last month. What did you learn? What did you see? What was outside of your normal space? Those new ideas, those new conversations, those new directions. This is where, at this new moon, take those things and say, I have no idea how to do this exactly, but I'm going to plant my seeds of intention to continue to learn this and let it grow. It's a beautiful time to plant your seeds of intention to speak, to teach, to have a different relationship with a sibling, whatever this looks like, okay? On the 19th, big news. We have got Chiron moving into the vibration of Taurus. And for some of you, this begins the story of your Chiron conjunction, so your Chiron return. For you, Aries, Chiron is going to move into your second house of money, resources, how you allow resources to flow towards you, your self-worth, the things that you value, long-term healing around these things in wherever it's at in your journey right now. So for paying attention and cueing in Chiron, because it's been the wound, and now it can also be the healing that has happened and now the teaching that you can work with. I would look for you to start questioning your worth, to start questioning money, to start questioning what you actually value, how your relationship is with Venus. Do the Venus Reset program. How is your relationship with visibility with all this AI coming in, Aries? Many people are going to need to get a new relationship with visibility because humans will have to see each other again because the machines are doing the work. Okay. So what is your worth? What's your relationship with visibility? All of these are Venusian questions. What's your actual relationship with money at this point in your life? Where do you have these moments or these playing in the background fears of not enoughness in some way? My body's not enough. My resources aren't enough. I'm comparing myself to other people. These are the stories and the soundtracks that may be presenting themselves. And I want to be really clear here. It's not this transit coming in to hurt and to harm you. Our planets don't actually work that way. It is about healing you. And then also where there has been the healing and a new relationship with self-worth, it will be likely that people will show up in your space and you get to pass what you've learned on to them. It's really deep work. It's absolutely powerful. And I think it's the kind of stuff that not only allows you to witness where you're at on your own journey, but to show someone else the journey is possible as well. And God knows, or whoever's in charge, money on the global stage is going to get really different. So there will be a lot of conversations and grieving around that as well. On the 21st, we see the sun moving into the vibration of Cancer, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality. So now the sun is ready for you to be more Cancerian, but it is a start. You are cardinal, just like Cancer is. So we're beginning the portion of the season where you go inward, even though this is the 4th house. You're coming into your house. You're coming into sensitive territory and terrain. You're getting more focused on home, family, real estate, property, your upbringing, your parents. You're aware of what you need emotionally. What are you craving? What makes you feel safe? How do you create safety for the people you're around as well? So this particular season, every year, it's not this push forward, hustle hard time. It's the beginning of the season, and how do you nurture yourself and what means safety and family to you? If you are tired, rest. If you're full of fear, listen, because it's trying to say something in me needs to be nurtured at the foundations. I heard this really beautiful thing in ceremony the other day, and they were talking about how when we're looking at the 4 directions, we look at, we come to the south as the child, the north as the adult. And does the child trust the adult enough to go out into the world? And thinking about this in the basis of the chart, we actually look at it just a little bit of a different way, right? Because the south, when we're looking at it from the Western Hemisphere perspective, is actually up in the sky. So how do we relate this? How do we allow the adult self, the grounded self, the home self, and the public self to trust and relate to each other? Well, we've got to know what security looks like here. All right. When we get to the 29th, we're going to see Mercury actually take this retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer. So again, locate that in your chart in case it changed houses. So as Mercury officially steps into its retrograde time, we are going into a season of review. This is not hide under a rock time, unless of course that's indicated in your chart, but we're going to rest. And here in the 4th house, old family patterns, old patterns currently existing in your house, emotional patterns, the way your emotional and intuitive intelligence are firing, plans around your home, family, real estate, property, living space, or situations may shift. You might say something to someone and you mean it one way, it hits completely differently for them, and you're kind of confused, and that's very Mercury retrograde. But what it is that everybody's having Mercury retrograde in Cancer. We're all sent back to some level of, is this safe for me? So just remember, over the Mercury retrograde period, slow down, give yourself and other people grace. We're all walking forward while our heads are looking backwards. That is a setup for a little bit of a confusion. Clarify where you can and try not to assume anything. Okay. All right. As we're going to get ready to close out the month here on the 30th, we've got Jupiter moving into Leo, bringing more energy into this 5th house space for you. And this is a major shift. We haven't been here for 12 years. So going back into your life, into 2014, what was happening in your life? What was going on? What were you building in this 5th house area? What were you expanding? Where were you taking on this new cycle of growth and some level of visibility being tied to that as well? But if you think of the question of, in those time frames, where were you going? What were you creating? What were you saying? Where were you being asked to step into your light? And there would be validation with it. Where were you being asked to express yourself in some kind of way? Now that energy is coming back, but you're wiser. That's the thing I love about Jupiter, is you get to have full-blown access to this information and this experience of this transit, but you have to apply the wisdom. Now, how do we get wisdom? By going through the GD experience, right? Like, we got the experience brings wisdom. So what have you learned? This will be a time over this next year to create, to express, to get a relationship with visibility, to take up space, to let yourself be seen, have a perspective, and yes, I'm going to be making a separate video just on the Jupiter transit alone, because it's a transit that deserves its own moment. I mean, it's in Leo. All right, my beautiful Aries friends, there's plenty going on this month. Plenty, plenty, plenty. The world is going to be out here being the world. We gather so that you can see how you can bring this into your chart, into your life, speak this fluently in your world, and so that you can live it out in your best decisions and your best quality of life. I love you a ton. Please let me know how this month goes for you in the comment section down below, and I will see you in July. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Taurus friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026. Taurus, I hope you had an absolutely gorgeous birthday. And now it is time to move on into this Gemini Cancer season work. We've got some things to do. And this month, I'm not going to lie, I think that this is a pretty profound month. And it will lead us into the real work that I think kicks off in July. But this month, yes, we have Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo. That's a big deal because we haven't had that for 12 years. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about going back to review what you've been doing. But a couple things that are bigger that catch my attention for you, Taurus, this month. First of all, your ruling planet Venus is coming back inbounds. It went out of bounds last month. So it has been able to do whatever it wants. I'm very curious how May went for you. Please share that in the comment section down below. What was that experience like for you? The other thing is that Venus will move into Leo. So we get a little bit of fire. And even though you are an earth sign, I tend to find that Taurus in particular as an earth sign likes them some fire. I married a whole fire sign. I got the whole tribe, actually. I got one of all the set. So there's this interesting dynamic between this. So I'm curious what you'll do with that now that Venus has been on a journey and is going to move into a very expressive place. But the big news for me, for you, is that Chiron is moving into your sign. And this is an indicator to me that there's a beautiful month ahead, lots of possibilities. But the real theme, I think, Taurus, is you are learning what you are worth and how to live like that. How to live like that, right? There's some things about your identity and the way you have valued yourself that maybe become peaked, and you see if you still are working on them. But there are some other things that are a blessing. You have changed. You understand your worth and your value differently. And even the blessings can be uncomfortable. But as you begin to live in them this month and moving forward, it's really powerful. Okay, please make sure you have your own chart. If you don't have a chart already, click in my description box down below and get one for me so you can very clearly see the degrees of what house this is happening in for you. Now let's jump in and walk through this together. Right at the beginning of the month on June 1st, we've got Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer, which lights up your third house space. This is going to be about communication. Projects that you're working on that have to do with writing or sharing small details, things having to do with siblings, the way that you listen is very third house as well. But now you're going to be doing it like Mercury in Cancer, which brings to light listening and processing information and reflecting from emotional and intuitive intelligence. So you might notice as we're traveling this month that first of all, the conversations get deeper. They get Cancerian. We're going more towards what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel secure, what makes me feel nurtured. You're listening in a different place because you're more sensitive to the tone and the energy of what's happening around you. You're thinking and looking and discussing the past differently than you ever have, and you're processing things. You're actually processing these feelings instead of just thinking about them and moving on, right? So it's not just communication that is happening here with just our words. It's the feeling of communication. It can be a very sensory experience. And yes, I mean, sometimes we just read a little bit more into things than is necessary. So, before you jump into any kind of spiral, if that's what's happening for you, just double check yourself, because this is a month of really going in, taking the head into the feelings, having that head feeling connection. But sometimes some things are a feeling that are creating a story, and the spiral you're writing, you might want to get off. Okay. Now on the 7th, we see Venus come back inbounds, and it matters because it's your ruling planet. And when a planet is out of bounds, they're outside of their normal limits. So emotions, desires, experiences, they feel more extreme. They feel more unpredictable. Venus has been out of bounds. And for you particularly, being Venusian ruled, it's been so emotional. so much in the home space. I'm really curious what your experiences have been like. I would be looking for things like having really heightened emotions around your home or something with your home or around safety, craving comfort food that is beyond the normal way that you are craving comfort food, or you're craving reassurance or validation in some way. Feeling like emotional needs, like almost like they cannot be met. It can feel really extreme. So then on the 7th, as Venus comes back inbounds, there's a settling. Listen, you do not like to be jostled. Taurus is a fixed energy. It does not like to be shaken. We just finished with Uranus. The shaking has no more need commence. So bringing a little bit more stability, a little bit more grounding, a little bit more manageability to this area, I think you'll be like, okay, I can breathe again. You can breathe again. On the 12th, we've got Mercury moving into its pre-retrograde shadow time, and this is going to be at 16 degrees and 19 minutes of Cancer. So again, we're going to do this retrograde in your 3rd house space. But as we enter into this pre-retrograde shadow time, I'd like you to start paying attention to where this is happening, like what actual house is this in your chart, because this is where the story of review is going to be happening between 16 and 26 degrees. So it can start to look like at this time like there's a conversation that happens, but it doesn't fully land for some reason, right? There's no full resolution to it. Or you're thinking, okay, I've made a decision. This is it. And then you realize you really haven't made a decision because you need to revisit that. Maybe there's more emotional content or intelligence in there. Or you're realizing, hold on, there's more for me to understand here. So if something feels like you're doing it, but it's also being left unfinished, I promise you it is. Let it process. That is what we're going to work on during this retrograde time. Okay. On the 13th, Venus is now back from the out of bounds trip, going to be going into the vibration of Leo. As Venus comes into Leo, it's lighting up the 4th house space, home, family, real estate, property. And remember, be a Venusian, calm down, let it come to you, say what you value, say what you want, point your hips at it and tell it to come to you. Call it in, call it in, call it in. And this is where you might want to do very traditional things. You want to beautify your home. You're like, I need some fire. I need some life in this space, right? I need this to be comfortable. I need this to be beautiful. I need this to be warm. I want warmth. You might be calling in fire into your space. Or you want to connect with people who maybe are your family, but maybe they're your chosen family as well, because there's some element of joy around it. And whatever it is, however you want to connect, it's valid here because something in your creativity is what wants to decorate, wants to spend the time at home, wants to nurture yourself, wants to say, this place needs to feel like me. But here's the thing. Don't expect other people to just know what you need emotionally, right? You're going to need to say it. You have to act like more of a Leo during this particular transit. Say, I need the color red, or no, I don't actually like that red. I want this red, right? So it'll be a real speak up time as well. On the 14th, we've got a new moon happening in Gemini, lighting up your 2nd house space of money, of values, of how you allow resources to flow towards you. And at the same time, on the same day, we'll see that Mercury is coming back in bounds as well. Venus and Mercury have been being the Bobbsey twins, and they have been being out of bounds doing whatever they want for about a month. So now as they come back in, and this is at a new moon time, it's a reset. You get to plant your seeds of intention to begin new things around your money. And you gathered, while both Venus and Mercury were out of bounds, new ideas, new perspectives, new listenings, new ways of earning, new realization, not only about your value, but the value of money and how money will need to be earned in this new economy. So there's a clarity that I think is coming online, but Mercury is still retrograde, so it might not fully land. So at this new moon, you can plant your seeds of intention to call in more groundedness, more clarity around how you're going to allow these new resources and these new skills and techniques to allow resources to flow towards you. This is, I think, one of the most powerful lunations for you this year, because it's where you can start to build something, Taurus, and you build something that is yours, and you get to build it like you. You don't have to rush it. We're still in in the shadow, where Mercury's not retrograde yet, it's still in the shadow, right? So there is just still this space of you get to build like a beautiful Taurus. On the 19th, Chiron is moving into Taurus, and this will light up your first house space. For some of you, you're preparing for your Chiron return. So it's Chiron conjunct Chiron. I'll be making a separate video about Chiron and Taurus, and I'll be making a separate video about your Chiron return because they both deserve a moment. But it is a big deal. Chiron coming into your sign, Taurus, this is identity level healing. This is visibility level healing. This is receiving level healing. This is empowerment. This is sacred pelvic bowl level healing. You're going to get your soft and empowered back. I'm really excited about it, but I want to be super real. I think it can hurt. I think that this can be a little painful because Chiron is the wounded healer. We have a wound here about resources that is so deep. It's so deep. Now, we'll all collectively be working on this, but this is also tapping into your sun, right? The sun, how do you go out into the world and hold value in space, Taurus? This will be a massive place. So you might be re-questioning who you are. The world is also changing at the exact same time that you're having this opportunity to expand yourself in this way. So you're questioning who you are. You might be feeling more exposed or more vulnerable in some way, or you're noticing where your confidence isn't quite what you thought it was, right? Maybe you're seeing patterns about yourself that you don't necessarily love. Or you might be also feeling like, wait a minute, I thought I was solid. I just got out of Uranus and Taurus. I thought I was solid. So why am I feeling like this? What is this? And it's because you're being asked to meet yourself more honestly. You're going to be asked this Venusian question. This is really why we've been getting ready in Venus Reset, because you're going to be asked about your relationship with receiving. You're going to be asked about your relationship with visibility, with being able to be valuable if you're doing less. You're going to be asked those questions, and they can be hard if you don't know how to do that. So truly, if the Venus Reset program is right for you, jump in. Now, this is not necessarily a transit, I think, that is about breaking you down, but it is about stripping away the poison out of the wounds that were built on fear and survival and needing approval and needing to produce, instead of give and collab and receive. And so, yes, it can absolutely be uncomfortable, or it feels like your identity is shifting. But on the other side of this, what this transit is going to end up leaving us with in a couple years is your level of self-confidence and clarity. I think will blow your mind, and it's not the kind that depends on what the economy is doing. It doesn't depend on what you're doing and producing. It's going to be like, it comes from a place of knowing yourself so deeply, so empowered, even when things aren't perfect, that you feel healed on the journey. Now, the other thing I do want to point out about this that I think is important, in the ways that you've healed this, or that this is going very well for you, you may be calling people into your life and you become a resource for them, and you're teaching them this. You're showing them this, right? It is one great example I think of is whether you're male or you're female, welcoming the next woman who's coming into a perimenopausal portion of the journey. You might be able to speak to that if you've come to the other side of that already. And even if you're male, my husband helps other men understand what's going on with their wives all the time because we've come past this. So men and women, we're all getting this transit. Think about this. This is going to be a long journey, so be gentle with yourself, okay? On the 21st, to bring some gentle in, the sun is going to move into the vibration of Cancer, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, lighting up your third house space. Now you're more motivated to communicate. You're more motivated to connect. You're more motivated to speak your truth. But it will come from a place of emotional intelligence and emotional honesty. So remember, you don't have to figure everything out, but you will be asked to speak quite a bit this month. Now, on the 29th, we see Mercury stepping into its retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer. And this is going to be in your third house space. We're not going to be hiding under any rocks. If you have Mercury retrograde, in fact, you won't be hiding under any rocks. You'll be coming outside while we're all going inside, right? But as Mercury is retrograding here, make space and give a lot of grace for misunderstandings, repeating conversations that, like at the beginning of the month, you're like, why isn't there any solution? Why doesn't this feel solid? Say something, hearing something completely different, very Mercury retrograde, or you just find yourself in many moments thinking, that's not what I said, that's not what I meant, excuse me, what did you say? So slow down, clarify, ask questions, give a lot of grace. This is really not understanding. It's a time where there's misunderstanding, so it requires us to slow down and not be in the rushing. On the 30th, as we're going to close out this month, Jupiter will make this move into fellow fixed energy of Leo. And again, this is another major shift for us for the year. Jupiter will be lighting up your fourth house space, home, family, real estate, property, your deepest roots. So it's opening this cycle of growth in your home. Now, stepping back into your life to about 2014, what was happening for you there? Where were you expanding? Where were you learning a lot of things? Because while Jupiter is benefic and also acts as a guardian angel while you're learning, you gotta learn it. That's where we get the wisdom, right? Wisdom comes from experiences. So now as this is back, and you're thinking about that time frame, did you change your home? Did you move? Did someone new come into your home? Did your emotional life expand in some way? Because those items are returning now, but you're wiser. You went through the experience. So now when these similar patterns present themselves, you know how to build a home that feels good because you learned something. You know how to create emotional safety. You know how to expand your sense of belonging and safety and security. Those things will all be skills that you get to bring to the table, but then also expand with what you've learned as well. And yes, I will also be making a separate video on Jupiter in Leo as well, because again, it's in Leo. It deserves its own moment. All right, my beautiful Taurus friends, I love you guys a ton. Please let me know your experiences with that Venus out of bounds in May. What was it like now that you're like, don't leave the comment until you get to June. I want to know what May looked like fully and then tell me in June. Okay, I love you guys and I'll see you next month. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Geminis, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026. And Gemini, there's a fair amount going on this month. The big ticket items are, of course, that Chiron is moving into the vibration of Taurus. That will be huge. Jupiter is moving into Leo, also huge. But Mercury, your ruling planet, is not only going retrograde this month, but it's also coming back in bounds. And I think that one actually gets your attention a little bit more than the other ones. So we'll talk about all of this in your forecast here. Please make sure that you have your very own natal chart so that you can see exactly where these degrees are happening in your particular chart. All right, Gemini, let's jump in and see what the month has to offer. So right here on the 1st, Mercury, your ruling planet, is going to move into the vibration of Cancer. Now, as Mercury is dancing in this Cancerian space, it's lighting up your second house, okay? This is about money. This is about resources. This is about how you allow those resources to flow towards you. So as Mercury moves into Cancer, our mind is moving now in a way where our emotional and intuitive intelligence is really called to the surface. This is not strictly logical. It is the question, how do you feel about your money? How do you feel about money? How do you feel about finances? How do you feel about your worth? These are the questions that we're kind of thinking about, but you are thinking about how you feel about your finances, about your worth, about, maybe reflecting on how you make money, feeling emotionally, how emotionally tied your sense of well-being is to resources. And this is not just numbers. It's not the numbers. It's, do I feel safe and do I feel stable around this area of my chart? And if the answer is sometimes, this will be what I think that you're working on this month, particularly as the retrograde is going to pass back through here. Now on the 7th, we've got Venus coming back in bounds. We saw Venus step into an out of bounds position last month in May, and I'm really very curious what your experience was, because when a planet in general goes out of bounds, it's outside of its normal range. So the planet can be exaggerated or it can be a bit more unpredictable. But now, as Venus has gone out of bounds, some of the things that could have happened were honestly like you're overthinking, overfeeling, overlooking for validation in relationships. You're saying something and then analyzing it for like 3 days later. You know, the emotional highs and lows of a Venus out of bounds can be a lot, or feeling misunderstood in something that you value. Now, as Venus is coming back in bounds, some of the stability comes back. There's a settling. You know, I don't need to reread this message 12 times, or I don't need to rethink this. You can take the tape recorder out of your head. Something, though, that I am hoping you're going to report to me that also happened during Venus retrograde, Venus out of bounds, is that you were able to access a different level of receiving, or a different level of understanding the value of rest and how doing less can allow you to do what's only needed, and that gives you more. Let me know that in the conversation and comment section down below. Now, on the 12th, we have Mercury entering into its pre-retrograde shadow time, and this is at 16 degrees of Cancer. So please start to pay attention at this point into the month. What's starting to happen? What's happening with conversations around money, around value, around decisions, around income that you need to make at this time? You know, how are your resources? How are you thinking about these resources? Because it's part of a bigger story that we will work on during the retrograde. So honestly, if you think like, I want to work on this, or I want to do this financially, keep thinking about it. Stay in the process, because you're in the setup phase. You're in the process and setup phase right now, and we'll continue to work on that as the month continues to go. On the 13th, Venus is going to enter into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your third house space of communication, decision making. Maybe there's a conversation that you needed to have, and Venus is going to bring a little bit of ease to it. I think that this can actually be a really beautiful transit, because first of all, you know, it's Venus. So there is some element of softening things out here that is happening, but there's also a calling in. I value this. I feel beautiful in this area. You might feel more expensive. You may feel more confident. You may feel more creative in how you communicate. There can be more social here. It is a great time for teaching, talking, content creation, negotiating, because you're actually being perceived quite well with Venus here. Now, it's also a time to draw resources towards you. What do you value in your third house? Do you have something to say? Like, do you have a book? Do you have something that you want to teach and you want to put it out there? Because Venus is also a relationship with visibility. How comfortable are you being seen and consumed in your beauty? And thus receiving from it. So I'll be interested to see how that goes for you as well. On the 14th, we've got a new moon happening in your sign. How's birthday time going? Let me know what you did for your birthday. I would be really interested to know that as well. I'm very interested in you. You can tell I have Mercury in my chart, like a high one, because I want to know all of your business. Let me know how birthday time has been going for you. But we've got a new moon, which is your birthday moon, happening here on the 14th, and this lights up your first house space. At the same time, we've got Mercury, your ruling planet, coming back inbounds. So this is your new moon. This is the one that kicks it off for the rest of the year for you. Plant your seeds of intention. What identity do you want to carry forward for the next year? How does that version of you make decisions? Well, Mercury's in Cancer. So the decisions you make, how you're thinking about things, where you're listening from in the next year, they've got to come in the form of real emotionally listening and intuitive listening. And how does that reshape the direction of your life that you want to go in, how you show up in the world, how you are presenting yourself? You might have this sense at the new moon of, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for a new experience. So it's a powerful time to plant your seeds of intention there, and add to it all of the new ideas, attitudes, and perspectives that you got to gather while Mercury was out of bounds last month, because you went and found new information that is outside your normal realm that you need to be able to apply to move forward in a different direction. On the 19th, we've got Chiron moving into the vibration of Taurus, and this will light up your 12th house space because it's one house behind you. This is a big deal. Chiron is our wounded healer. So the wounds that are very Taurian, first of all, they're wounds with Venus, wounds around your visibility, wounds about receiving, wounds about softness, wounds around femininity, feminine energy, wounds around things happening in your hips, your sacred pelvic bowl area, your money, where are you at in your relationships. So this is where we're undergoing a conversation that will require deep internal healing processes. This is not loud work. It's quiet in the 12th house, but it's also deep. Right? So this can start to look like for you, and I'm going to make a separate video on this because it deserves its own topic. Old fears coming up, subconscious patterns resurfacing. This is a 12th house energy for you. Regression work was probably amazing. Emotional wounds that you didn't even realize were still there. Right? This is in Venus, which is a receiving energy. Likely if you've been a hustle hard, which Venus is not, you've been producing. I'm valuable if I produce, sustain. This will call that to the surface. Looking at needing a relationship with rest and receiving. This is why we have been getting ready in the Venus Reset program. I would call your attention to getting into the Venus Reset program because let's be honest, this transit can be uncomfortable. You might feel like, why am I here again? Why is this coming up again? I thought I already healed this. Stories of survival may be trapped in Taurus, in your body. So we'll be working some of those, and it's quite deep. But this is where the healing is happening beneath the surface for you. Okay, now the gift on the other side is release. The freedom you get here will be released. And I encourage you to be Venusian with yourself. Be gentle. Be gentle. This is sacred work that you are doing. Now, to the other side of what this transit may also call into you is where you have healed in this Chiron and Taurus story, this particular house in your life. You might be calling people into your life who are still in the pain of their journey. And you're like, oh, I've healed that. I can teach you about that. I know that area. I can be a resource and help you. That is something I can't wait to make a separate video about that. But that'll be happening over there for you in the 12th house. On the 21st, we've got the sun entering into the vibration of Cancer, bringing back to the conversation about your finances. The sun brings light, heat, life, and vitality. So now you're being asked to actually look at your money, but you're motivated to do so now. Look at your worth. Look at what you are accepting into your life. And you might be asking yourself practical questions. How am I making money? How is money flowing to me? How is a resource flowing to me? Am I making what I deserve? Is the energy I'm outputting getting me what needs to be inputting as well? Am I treating myself like I matter? Am I safe with me? Right? Or am I just loving and nurturing into myself? I've really grown in this area over the last year, because that is what I think the real work of Cancer season is for you. On the 29th, Mercury steps into this retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer. Now, with Mercury officially going off on the retrograde time, we move into review. So we're going to be calling back to the beginning of the month where Mercury moved into that pre-retrograde shadow time position. Now, what came up here? What came up around money? What came up in this second house area? You're rethinking financial decisions. You're relooking at the budget. There might be delays in your money or conversations around money. You're relooking at how you earn, how you spend. You're relooking at something needs to change to be in alignment with how this area of your life is working. And literally, if you thought to yourself, I thought I already had this figured out, maybe you find out you didn't, and it's okay, because it's just a process of getting that ironed out during this retrograde time, which we're really going to work with it until we get to August and leave post-retrograde shadow time. So give yourself some grace. You're just refining, okay? On the 30th, as we close out this month, Jupiter is going to shift into the vibration of Leo. And it is, again, it's a major shift for us in the year. We haven't seen Jupiter in this third house position for you for 12 years. So you want to go back into that 2014, 2015 time, just depending on your chart, and see what was going on for you at that time? What were you learning? Were you learning something new? Were you expanding in a different direction? Were you speaking more? This is the third house. Was something going on with a sibling? Were you teaching? Were you sharing? Were you connecting? Whatever you were doing at that time, you had those experiences and it made you wiser and you developed there. And now you get to use what you actually developed 12 years ago, even if you haven't been using it for 12 years, to do those things now and expand out. Read, write, speak, teach, connect, create. Your voice gets an expansion here. And yes, I'll be making a separate video on this as well because it's Leo. It's Jupiter in Leo. It needs its own separate just about Leo video. And I'm happy to do that. All right, beautiful Geminis, I hope you had a gorgeous birthday time. It's going to be a good month. Please let me know what's happening for you, how this is unfolding in the comment section down below. Astrology is not one size fits all. We're all having different experiences. So pop down there. Let us know how it's going. I love you, and I'll see you in a very, very, very busy July. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Cancer friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026, where we've got birthday month going on. I don't know. I don't think you needed a song, but happy birthday, Cancer. Now listen, Cancers, before we jump in, if you do not already have your own natal chart so you can see exactly where these transits are happening in your chart, I highly encourage you to do that. You can click in my description box down below. Come get one from me. And you can also get my free guide down there if you're newer to astrology and you need a little bit of help navigating what the heck's going on here. It's a beautiful free guide I've got for you. You can check it out, okay? Now, Cancer, as we are coming into this month, we've got several big, beautiful things that are happening that are going to get our attention. Jupiter is moving into Leo at the end of the month. That is a major transit that's happening for us. Chiron is going to be moving into Taurus. I think we'll feel that one a little bit more intensely, and we'll be working with it for a while. Mercury is going to be going retrograde, but Mercury is also going to be coming back inbound. So this is going to shift the way some of the rest of the energies are working for the month, particularly as there's a fair amount going on in your sign. So it's a true recognition, Cancer, that as this month is happening, you are definitely becoming and are someone new, but you're still processing that newness as we're traveling. So let's jump in and talk about that. On the 1st, Mercury is moving into Cancer, into your first house space. As Mercury moves into your sign, your mind is on you. And I love that for you. Think about you a little bit, right? Where do we say this? But they're like, be mindful. And it's like, I want somebody to just say, hey, why don't you sit down for an hour and think about yourself? Think about you. Who are you? What do you need? How do you feel? How do you feel like you're showing up in the world? And because this is Cancerian energy, you're thinking about yourself, or you're invited to think about yourself, Cancer, in a space that is intuitive. It's emotionally intuitive. It is emotional intelligence, Mercury coming to the surface. You know, it's Cancerian. It's where you get more reflective, where you really say something that you immediately feel and you go, yeah, that's the truth of me. That's really how I feel. That's really how I speak. That's really the sound of my own voice, right? There's a lot that goes into Mercury traveling here, and you really get to show off a little bit, I think, this month as to how tuned in you are to what's not being said, to the vibe that's happening, and how your words affect the space that you're in. So I do want you to be mindful as Mercury is traveling here, because not every feeling that arises is something that needs to be spoken on. Definitely the principle, is it true, accurate, kind, and necessary, will be something to consider before you speak it. But if you have things bubbling up that are feelings that now need a word space to live, this is a great time to journal, do the voice notes, anything like that, so you can see who you are, the good and the challenging of that as well. On the 7th, we've got Venus coming back in bounds. Now let's talk about this for a second, because Venus went out of bounds in May. We talked about that in your May 2026 video. And when a planet goes out of bounds, it's outside of its normal range of engagement. So it gets to do kind of what it wants. And things can feel more intense. They can feel more exaggerated. They can feel a bit more unpredictable. With Venus out of bounds, the emotional ups and downs in May could have been a little bit more intense. The emotional ups and downs in relationships, or with money, or with the am I good enough? What is my value? You could have been feeling really good, really confident one day, and the next you're like questioning your worth. You could have really felt good about your country's currency one day, and the next you're like, we're cooked. You know, like it was really a ride. This craving for comfort and validation and security also could have been higher than normal, where you're like, this is not my normal realm of operation. And on the 7th, Venus will come back inbound. So there is a settling that comes with it. You know, your finances, your decisions, your ability to have harmony in your relationships. But something I'm hoping that each of you are going to put in the comment section and report to me is that also while Venus was out of bounds, because we get to go someplace we don't normally go, you developed an understanding and a relationship with being Venusian, with receiving, with your relationship with not having to be productive to be valuable, your relationship with wealth, your relationship with rest, your relationship with if I do less, but I do the right things, it gets me more. These are your relationship with visibility. This is why the Venus Reset program is on my mind and my heart for you, because this is a month where here going forward, you're going to be asked to be more Venusian than you ever have been. So I'm hoping as well you will report that while Venus was out of bounds, you somehow got a relationship with it that you don't normally have. And now you can implement that. When we get to the 12th, Mercury is moving into pre-retrograde shadow time at 16 degrees of Cancer. So while this is still in your sign, let's look at where 16 degrees is actually at on your chart, because this is a time where, especially around your identity, your decisions that you're making, you're going to start to have conversations that will need to be revisited. You know, so it looks like you're making a decision and I'm definitely going in this direction, but you're also kind of questioning it, or the details to go in that direction are taking a really long time to come through. You sent the paperwork off. I mean, you walked it over to the place. You dropped it on the lady's desk and it's missing, I guess. You know, these kinds of things can be happening as the pre-retrograde shadow time is coming in. It's just saying, hold on, something's going to need a little bit more clarification. It may take a moment, but also because it is in your sign, you might be going, wait, I'm still kind of figuring myself out. So I thought I knew what I wanted. I really thought it was this thing, but that maybe not the thing. Or you're realizing, yes, this is the direction I want to go. And my nervous system doesn't feel safe enough to go there yet, but I know I want to go. You're still learning, and that's okay. You're learning what this version of you looks, moves, how it acts, all of these things. So give yourself some space to take this process of the story through the Mercury retrograde, which we'll really work with until August. On the 3rd, Venus is going to move into our fiery sign of Leo. This lights up your second house space. So first of all, call money to you. If you need resources, call them. Be like, money, this is my address. Come here, right? So call it to you. Point your hips at it. Tell it you want it to come, and then make space to receive it. So again, where are you at in your relationship with Venus, your Venus Reset program, your money, your confidence, your self-worth, treating yourself with respect, which also includes resting? In Leo, it's feeling confident and feeling radiant. It's investing in yourself so that that confidence and that radiance can present itself outward. It's a great time to acknowledge and ask for what you are worth. It is a great time to upgrade something in your life. It's also a really great time to just enjoy. Leo is a sign of enjoyment. Fiery enjoyment. If you have this urge to watch some show that you really like over again, so you can indulge in the enjoyment of it, do it. If you have the urge to just overspend and not pay your bills, I would discourage that, but this is your life and your lessons, right? What I can say here is you don't need to impress anyone. You need to impress the hell out of yourself. So let me know how that energy goes for you. On the 14th, we've got a new moon that is happening in Gemini, and this will light up your 12th house space. At the same time, Cancer, we've got Mercury coming back in bounds this day as well. So first of all, this new moon is a little bit quieter because you're planting your seeds of intention in a quieter space of your chart. It's more internal. It's more things going on behind the scenes. It can look like I'm beginning a relationship with rest. I'm beginning a relationship with processing this last year, processing my emotions, letting something go, coming to a position of surrender, prayer, meditation, having realizations behind the scenes. Some of you are our researchers and you've been working on something behind the scenes. So you're planting your seeds of intention. Now remember, as you plant your seeds of intention here, You're also beginning a story that you'll work on for 27 months. Okay, it's a 27-month story. So something will be shifting and you're beginning the story here. With Mercury coming back in bounds here, as you're planting the seeds in your garden, bring the new perspectives, new information, new emotions. Bring the new stuff that Mercury out of retrograde, out of bounds brings to you, because Mercury went outside of what you normally know, gathered some things. Y'all did that. Now bring them in and plant the seeds of your garden with what's new and can help you grow. It's not a loud beginning, but it is still an important one. Now on the 19th, we have got Chiron moving into the vibration of Taurus. This is going to light up for you in your 11th house space. So friends, social groupings, organizations. I like to put social medias in there, tech, AI, all of that. I like to put that over there as well. But also your long range goals, designs, and dreams that you have for yourself. Because the dreams that you have for yourself, the community, the tribe, the place where you feel like you belong, they help you achieve those dreams. So let's be real. As Chiron is traveling through here, Chiron is our wounded healer. We have such a wound here around my enoughness, my resources, my security, my beauty, my value. So these stories can come up and they can hurt. They can look like, they can be painful. They can look like I feel like I don't really belong anywhere. I feel like I've outgrown this friendship group over here, but I don't quite have the next one yet. So I'm a little bit lonely. I'm realizing that certain connections just don't align for me anymore. But where do I go? I don't know what to do with that. Or questioning your place in the world, questioning yourself, at a place in a group, questioning what is the future I want to build? I don't know what my position in the world is. So see, these are some of the things that can come up, but in the end, I think the cry for you, Cancer, is where are my people? And why does this all feel different now? And that can be very scary. And it is because you are changing, and you are changing and experiencing this, not just because it's life, but also because life has the entire vibration of the world shifting as well. So there's a bit more intensity here. And the gift is, I think that you can actually, through this transit, get a little bit more real with yourself, but also begin to build connections that are really aligned with who you are now. It's not necessarily about who you used to be, unless who you are going to be in the future is a version of you back then that is coming back online with more confidence. But I do want to point out there can be a little bit of loneliness in this transition. Now, to the other side of this, Chiron is the wounded healer teacher. You could be attracting some people into your life who you've already healed through some of these things. You've really made a space with them. And they're showing up and you're able to show them. And you're not able to say, you're gentle with them. You're gentle with them because you have known it. So you also understand you need to be gentle with yourself. So we'll watch for all of the learning that's happening here. Now, something else I can say here as well, Cancer, is that truly you will be asked about your relationship with Venus. Your relationship with visibility, your relationship with your softness, your relationship with your sacred pelvic bowl, with receiving. You can call in whatever the F you want, but if you can't receive it and hold it, if you can't rest into your power or rest into your grief, these are Venusian concepts as well, and I really invite you to the Venus Reset program. On the 29th, Mercury will step into its retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer, so now we're in this review. We're not hiding under rocks. Review work is review work. And if you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, while everybody's running in to do their review work, your review work is being done out in the streets, your boots on the ground. Now, this can look like you're rethinking a decision or you're reworking a decision. You're changing your mind about something. Changing your mind for a human being is an absolute spiritual experience as far as I'm concerned. There can be the misunderstandings that begin to creep up. There can be needing to re-express yourself about something because you're like, wait, I was really emotional in that, which is fine. But also the words maybe didn't land the way that I thought they should. So get ready for a lot of, hold on, that's not exactly what I meant. Okay, it's Mercury retrograde and that's totally fine. Slow down, clarify where you can, because remember, we're all Mercury retrograding together. As we get to the 30th, and we're going to close out this beautiful month of June, we've got Jupiter entering into Leo, into your second house. This is a big shift because Jupiter hasn't been here for 12 years. So first thing that we want to do is flash back to 2014, 2015 in your chart. Think back, what were you doing? Did your income grow at that time? Or were you learning lessons around finances, income, these kinds of things? Did your confidence grow? Did you start valuing yourself differently? What was happening at that time? Because now we're coming back and some of those themes will be present again, but now you're wiser because you're not the same person. The way Jupiter works, it's not just about giving you the wisdom. It's the courage to change the things that you can, right? Like you got to be granted the ability to be in the experience and see what you can change and what you can't. And then you have the wisdom to know the difference. So you have a lot of wisdom that you're working with, but it is a signal to you, beautiful Cancerians. It's time to build. It's time to build wealth. It's time to build a relationship with what wealth means to you. It's time to increase your confidence. It's time to step into your value. Now, of course, there are experiences of this that can go the other way. And I'm going to make a separate video talking just about Jupiter and Leo because it's Jupiter and Leo. It deserves its own moment. So we'll talk about that in a separate video so you can really explore that for yourself. All right, my beautiful Cancer friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month, and I hope you will share with us in the comment section down below how these things have been manifesting and unfolding and how you're doing in general. I love you, Cancer, and I will see you in a very busy July. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Leo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026. We're Leo, several big things happening this month. The big news is that Jupiter is moving into your sign for the first time in 12 years. So we're going to be casting the net backwards, looking into 2014, 2015, seeing what was going on in your life at that time, that now you're bringing some wisdom forward in how you apply that and expand yourself out. But that is really not all that's going on this month. We have also got a conversation going where Chiron is going to move into the vibration of fellow fixed sign of Taurus. This is going to be a massive set of questionings about your ability to receive, to Taurus, to have a relationship with Venus. It's also going to be a really big conversation for you, I think, around making these changes or the courage to be more visible than you have been in quite some time. We've also got Venus and Mercury coming back inbounds and then going out of, going retrograde. So there's plenty going on this month. Let's jump in and talk about what's happening. So right here on the first, we've got Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer, which is just one house behind you. So it lights up your 12th house space, Leo. As Mercury moves into Cancer, our processing, we begin in Cancer because it's a cardinal sign, but we're beginning a season of our emotional lives. So we're beginning a season of emotional intelligence, of intuitive intelligence. Your mind in the 12th house is turning more inwards. So you're looking back. You're looking at things behind the scenes. You're looking at subconscious patterns or doing subconscious pattern work of behaviors, ideas that can be your own undoing. You're thinking about the past. There can be grief that's coming up at this time. You're needing more alone time to process how you feel. But what's really going on here is that we're moving into a position, we're looking at your emotional intelligence and your intuitive intelligence is how you're going to move, which means in particular in the 12th house, moving forward or having a surrender, it's not a straight line and it's also not very clear. You know, it might feel a little fuzzy around the edges. You may also notice that intuitively, honestly, during this transit, you are a lot more sensitive. And I think that that's the point, particularly as we are going to have Mercury retrograde through this Cancerian energy. It lets us know that the cleanup we're going to be working on is not really logical. It's around safety. It's around stories and emotions that we have around safety. So this will be an interesting time. It will be a time where I will tell you while Mercury's traveling through this Cancerian energy, there's no need to push. It's just a process and it's just on your path. On the 7th, we see Venus coming back in bounds. Now, Venus went out of bounds in May, and I'm really curious what your experience was with that. Because when a planet goes out of bounds, it's not under the governance of the sun anymore, so it can kind of do what it wants. Our emotions can be more extreme, or they seem more unpredictable, or they're more exaggerated in some way. I'm hoping that you're going to report to me that as Venus went out of bounds, you got a relationship with rest and receiving and really being empowered and feeling comfortable with doing less and not always having to be producing, with feeling comfortable being visible. I hope that that's what you're going to report back to me, because you did your work in your Venus Reset program. But sometimes it's not like that. It might have looked like for you, it's possible that you were feeling very confident one moment and then really unsure the next. Or you were wanting the attention and the affection, and it was stronger than it normally is, right? There's this like looking for validation. There's this just a little bit extra that's trying to come out of you. So as Venus comes back in bounds here on the 7th, there will be some settling, but I do hope that what you learned and what you saw, you got to get to some kind of rooftop while Venus was out of bounds. You bring it forward and apply it as you're steadying yourself. On the 12th, we see Mercury moving into its pre-retrograde shadow time position at 16 degrees of Cancer. So this is where I'm going to have you watching in this 12th house space. Anything happening now on an internal level, being done behind the scenes or being done in the dark or happening in the dark, thoughts, realizations, emotional processing, surrender, grief, things going on with alcoholics or addicts or people who are a specialized population in your life. This is where you're going to revisit during this Mercury retrograde, which the entirety of the Mercury retrograde starts now and will go until August. So this can look like, or watch for things that are popping up where you're thinking about something differently. And you're thinking about it and you thought you were already over it. Or you're realizing that there's more here to process. You've processed the intellectual piece, but now you're on to the emotional piece. The other thing I don't want to miss here is that I think that this can also feel like an understanding intellectually that it's time to move on and move forward, but a feeling like I'm not safe and I'm not ready to do that yet, and it's because there's some old business here to finish out this cycle. Please let yourself just go through the process. When we get to the 13th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Leo. And so cha-ching, like that. I don't know if it's like that, but it tends to be a time where you feel a bit more beautiful. You feel a bit more magnetism. It's coming into your sign. You want to beautify yourself. You want to beautify the spaces around you. There is a magnetism. There is a confidence that comes with it. But also, what is your relationship with Venus? Are you able to receive when people are looking at all this confidence that you're putting out and they are consuming the beauty that you are, or they are just invested in watching something that you're doing? Can you receive the visibility without the shame or the desire to cringe away? As Venus is traveling through your sign, show up, be visible, receive, reconnect, be soft, be beautiful with yourself, and just be mindful that, your value is not dependent on what you do. And it's also not dependent on how others respond to you or give you applause or don't. It's really more about a desire to be seen and appreciated for who you really are. On the 14th, we've got a new moon happening in Gemini that'll light up your 11th house space. Now, we're also at the same time going to have Mercury coming back inbounds. So at this new moon, you're planting your seeds of intention around your friendships, your social groups, the places you feel like you belong, technology. Now, as Mercury was in its out of bounds position, it was gathering new ideas, new perspectives, maybe too many of them, because a Mercury out of bounds is wild. All of the opportunities, all of the thoughts and perspectives become available. But now, hopefully, as Mercury is coming back inbound, you can take those new perspectives, use them to plant your seeds of intention here and create a beginning. Think about where you're going next. Who are the appropriate tribe of people for you to be aligned with in that space that you're going? Because I promise you, you're not a tribe of one. And if you are a tribe of one, there's a whole bunch of tribe of ones, okay? Because that's just how we work. The connection with new people. What is that connection with new people you would like to have? What kind of friendship do you want to have in your life? And are you that kind of friend? Because you can't attract it if you aren't that. What's the new long-term goal you want to set for yourself? There's really a place here to plant your seeds of intention and shift your vision so that what grows over the next 27 months from what you've planted, you feel clearer about what you want and what's happening and unfolding in this area. And what I want the most for you is to find the very best space you can to be with the people who are your people, where you belong. So hopefully some of that is over here as well. On the 19th, we've got Chiron moving into Taurus, and this lights up your 10th house space. And this is, I think, a big deal and something to be paying attention to, because Chiron is our wounded healer. We have wounds here that are so deep around our resources, about being enough, about our bodies, our ability to receive, our abilities to be lovable, abilities to be vulnerable enough to be seen in all of our fullness. So as Chiron comes here to the 10th house, which is the top of your chart, we're watching you do something. This is a reputation. This is your career. This is a bit of a long healing process and learning process around what we see you do in public, your profession, your career, your public life, any of these things, how you are seen. And it can be uncomfortable. I'm going to make a separate video on this in its entirety, but for the sake of looking at it here, some things to start to pay attention to between now and September for sure, because this is when we're getting this first pass of Chiron moving through Taurus. So pay attention to what's coming up in this area, because you may be questioning your direction in life. You might be feeling really vulnerable about being seen in some way. You might be doubting the authority that you have. Like, do I have any place in this world? What is the authority that I have? That could be a really big question. Or feeling like you're being judged in some way. You could also feel like you're being elevated and you're kind of uncomfortable with it, So any of these things, it's the question I think that comes up here is, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this true for me? But as Chiron is traveling through Taurus, this is exactly what we've been getting prepared for. It is having a relationship with Venus. It is having a relationship with Venus. Can you receive? Are you clear on what you value? And that value is so rooted in empowerment that you're only willing to receive what is of value to you. You're willing to be seen by that value as well. So if you haven't popped into the Venus Reset program, or you feel like you still have a visibility wound, you still have a financial wound, you still have that vulnerability around being seen, jump into the Venus Reset program. It is there for you. On the 21st, we see the sun now moving into the vibration of Cancer, so it lights up your 12th house space. This is a great time where you will be motivated to rest, to reflect, to release, to close the cycle, because it's your resting time before birthday time is going to actually come on. And then just on the 29th, we see that Mercury moves into the retrograde position as well at 26 degrees of Cancer. So again, this is 12th house stuff. And now Mercury is officially here. You will be revisiting this 12th house area, looking at those old thoughts, those old memories, that old spiritual program, processing thoughts you haven't fully let go of, hopefully to get them to a position of emotional understanding so you can surrender them when it's time. You might be feeling mentally more quiet and less clear, really being guided by that emotional and intuitive intelligence. And I just want to say, as this transit goes on and we have all of this happening in Cancer, I really don't think it's confusion. It feels like confusion, but I don't want you to mistake confusion with which part is confusion. I've said confusion a whole bunch of times, and what part is integration. There's a clearing up of space that is definitely happening for you. Now, as we close out this month, this is the big news. Jupiter is moving into Leo, into your first house, and it is a major shift. Like I said, Jupiter has not been in this section of the chart since 2014, 2015, so go back to that time. Did you step into something big at that time? Did your confidence grow in some way? And it doesn't mean that it was pleasant. It doesn't mean that it was like, yeah, this is my best life. You might have been growing and learning something that you were like, holy crap. But now you know it because it would have expanded your life in some way. And now that energy is coming back, but you're wiser. You are wiser. So it is a cue that you use that wisdom, even if you don't feel like you've used it for 12 years. You use it to step forward, to expand, to grow, to be seen, to really allow this increase in visibility. But here's the thing. You can be confident that you are stepping into this after having done so much internal work, because Jupiter was in Cancer before. Some of this behind the scenes hold back, some of the dark, it has been cleared, and you're being guided wonderfully into this new light of expansion. I'll be creating a separate video on that because it's Jupiter in Leo and it deserves its very own moment. All right, my beautiful Leo friends, I love you a ton. Please let us know how the month goes. Let us know how May went as well. How did things unfold for you, particularly with out of bounds personal planets? Let us know that in the comment section down below. I love you, and I will see you in a very busy July. My absolutely brilliant and beautiful Virgo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026. We're Virgo this month. There is a slow down and reflect element, and I think that the world also has put a fair amount of pressure on that, but more so I think it's very intentional. It's like there's this one part of you that's ready to really move forward, while the other part is still processing something and still getting the process, your in process of what it is that you're trying to move forward. And these are happening simultaneously. So I would love to break down this month and talk about maybe where you can use the energies that are available to you and a way to think about them personally, because the world is doing the world, but what can Virgo do to help Virgo? So let's jump in and talk about what this month has to offer. Right at the beginning of the month, of course, this is a month where we've got big things happening. Jupiter's moving into Leo, Chiron's moving into Taurus, and we've got, your ruling planet going retrograde. But there are other transits happening, and we have to lean into where you have these small little glories as well. Okay, so right at the beginning of the month on the 1st, we've got Mercury, your ruling planet, moving into the vibration of Cancer. Now, this is going to light up your 11th house space. This is friends, social groupings, organizations, technology, science, but it's also about where you find your tribe, where you find your place where you belong. And that means it's also connected to bringing your attention towards the future, right? Your goals. What do you want? Because the people, places, and things that are going to help you get there and support you while you are there, that's what we're looking to get you aligned with. So as Mercury moves into this space, first of all, our thinking moves from just pure intellect and logic, and now we're moving into the emotional intelligence and the intuitive content. So you're thinking and processing what you're feeling, and it's headed towards whether or not this energy, these people, this organization, this system, this goal is still aligned with you from an emotional place anymore, from an intuitive place. And this is Mercury's going to retrograde through Cancer, so we're going to get to work with this, but this could be something that really starts reshaping your thinking and your understanding of a whole new direction in your life. But as Mercury moves here into Cancer, conversations with your friends, with your community, with the future direction that you want to go, I think do start to feel a little bit more aligned, even though the entire pathway is not completely laid out yet. Now, on the 7th, we've got Venus coming back inbounds. If you remember from your May horoscope, we talked about Venus going out of bounds. I love a good out of bounds planet, pretty much any of them, because it means that the planet is operating outside of the bounds of the sun. So it kind of gets to do whatever it wants, right? But it does mean things can be more exaggerated, can be more unpredictable. And with Venus out of bounds, some of the things could have been looking like you were really like you wanted more affection or you needed more attention. There was a greater fear around money, resources, your value. What am I going to do? These kinds of things. Hidden emotions, things that maybe you even thought I had dealt with this already, start to rise up to the surface, or thinking about those past relationships. Now that Venus is coming back inbounds, some of these things will start to settle. This place of, okay, I think I can step into this, make some progress on this without feeling so overwhelmed. But you're doing it by also realizing that when Venus went out of bounds, you found treasures out there. You learned some Venusian things while it was outside of the normal realm of how you do life. So hopefully you're able to apply those things as well to help yourself settle. On the 12th, we've got Mercury moving into its pre-retrograde shadow time position, and this is going to be at 16 degrees of Cancer. So when we're looking at this 16 degrees, we're going to be watching our retrograde story come between 16 and 26 degrees of Cancer. So we're going to be watching Mercury go back and forth of this particular story. In your personal chart, please locate between 16 and 26 degrees. Depending on which house system you are using, that may span a couple different houses, okay? For the most part, this is going to be happening in that 11th house space. So start to pay attention now. You know, we get to the 12th and conversations feel like you've had the conversation, but it didn't fully land or it didn't fully get the opportunity to complete. It's unresolved in some way. You're thinking about having a collaboration or something starts, but then it feels like it's not fully tied up, or, you know, future plans feel like they're not fully tied up, something like that. You'll revisit that during this Mercury retrograde, and it's perfect, okay? So just start to pay attention to what's coming along. And if something feels uncertain, it's still just because it's unfolding. Now, on the 13th, Venus is going to push forward and get into the vibration of Leo, lighting up your 12th house space. So this is the things that are happening behind the scenes. It's leading you to your relationship with rest, with advocating for yourself, that your fire needs time to be by itself and burn off those poisons to re-find your joy. This is a private and internal kind of Venus. You know, you're feeling more introspective about your relationships, your money, your journey this far. You're feeling more drawn into or calling in solitude to you, aware of your emotional needs, aware of maybe where there is rage or grief that needs to be processed around your softness, or where you have felt not valued or not valued yourself. This is a transit of receiving. Venus is a calling in planet, calling in, calling in, calling in. It is also a great place here, Virgo, if your money or relationships are not looking the way that you would prefer. Take them into quiet, take them into prayer, take them into reflection, take them into looking at patterns that have presented themselves, and take them into beauty and creativity. Where can you enjoy these things in your life? Where can you forgive yourself behind the scenes so that as Venus moves back forward and comes into your house, you're ready to come out with a little bit more magnetism, a little bit more understanding of how to receive and move and harmonize and magnetize in your relationships. When we get here to the 14th, we've got a new moon happening in Gemini, but we've also got Mercury, the ruling planet of this moon, coming back in bounds as well. Okay, when Mercury went out of bounds, it's a lot, because then all these new ideas, new perspectives, new conversations, new opportunities, new titles that you could be calling yourself in public present themselves. And some of them seem really far out there because Mercury's outside of the governance of the sun. So as we're here at this new moon, you get to plant your seeds of intention to begin something new in your 10th house, your career, your reputation, what we call you in public, what we know you for. We see you do this work. But you get to build this and plant these seeds of intention to unfold over the next 27 months with new information that is so outside of the box of what you were working with, because Mercury will bring that. You found that, you heard that, you tried some things that were outside of your realm when Mercury was out of bounds. Now bring them in to plant them in your beautiful garden, right? For many of you, it's very, you know, Uranus has also moved into Gemini as well. So it will be things around tech, around AI, around different ways of calling and knowing and using your own voice. I'm really excited to see what it actually is for you. On the 19th, this is, I think, a very big day. And it's going to have its own separate video as well. But on the 19th, we've got Chiron moving into the vibration of fellow Earth sign Taurus. This lights up your 9th house space: publishing, marketing, broadcasting, higher education, your belief structure, what you have faith in, international things, immigration, legal, all of these things that expand us out are what is happening in this 9th house space. Now, as Chiron moves here into the 9th house, it is a big story because Chiron is our wounded healer. So there's some story here that is beginning a long relationship with the healing process here in this area of your chart, your sense of meaning, your sense of faith, beliefs and perspectives that you've had. And this can be uncomfortable. We can't call it what it's not. This can be uncomfortable. You know, it could really be looking at what you you are questioning what you thought was true. You are feeling uncertain about a direction that your life is going or expanding into. You are realizing the beliefs that you had no longer fit. You may have to really stop and think, Virgo, wait, I mean, what do I do and what do I actually believe in right now? And I would just say, I don't think that that is confusion on your part. I think that it is actually growth. It's like being in the hallway on your way to the next change because you're outgrowing certain things that you have believed about your own expansion. And so that can feel quite destabilizing at first, but over time, it is going to be Taurian. It will build something solid that lasts. Now, to the flip side of this, where you have healed, because Chiron is also the teacher, where you have healed, you may find that there are more people coming into your space and they're asking you how you got through this, how you believed that you were enough, how you got a relationship with Venus, right? Taurus is ruled by Venus with rest, receptivity, a softness, an empowerment, money, relationships. How did you get a relationship with it? Because it's not necessarily inherited. You would have gone out to adopt it and learn it through pain, and somebody could be coming to you and looking for your wisdom. On the 21st, we see the sun move into the vibration of Cancer, and it's going to be brilliantly over here. Mercury's over here in Cancer as well. So there's this, again, this intensity or this motivation towards looking at your future. The sun here is asking you to reconnect to the goal. Let's relook at it, reconnect to it, reevaluate your tribe, your people, your friendships, where you are associated, and does that help you? Does that align with getting you where you get support while you're growing? It is really a being motivated to choose your environment quite consciously. Now, on the 29th, we'll see Mercury step into its actual retrograde. So it's going to actually, as we did the pre-retrograde shadow time, now Mercury's turning retrograde. And we see it going retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer. So of course, this is still in that 11th house place. Now, all those things that were coming up at the beginning of the month, we're going to start to look back over them. We're going to reconnect with those old friends, those tribes, those groupings, our relationship with friendships, revisit past goals, maybe even that you had, and see where you achieved some of those goals. Because don't forget to look back. You have done some amazing things. So even if the pathway forward doesn't feel like it's super clear because you're still processing that, don't forget to look back. You have effectively survived 100% of your life. That is amazing, right? You might be rethinking your direction or going back to conversations that felt like they weren't quite done because they weren't, and you're reviewing it. As we're going to close out this month, big transit for us, Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo, into this 12th house space. First and foremost, go back to 2014. What was happening for you the last time Jupiter was in Leo? What were you learning? Did you go through a healing period at that time? This is in the 12th house space for you. Were you pulling back? Were you doing some kind of reassessment of your life at that time? Was there creativity coming up? What was happening behind the scenes in your life at that time? Because we've got a repeating of some of those patterns at this time, but now you're wiser. Now you are wiser. You have already been through this training camp. So while there's plenty to learn, particularly around healing, around rest, around internal and spiritual stability, developing that spiritual emotional life, you do have some skills under your belt. And this is Jupiter. I have always been taught that Jupiter in the 12th house acts as a guardian angel. So what you need to learn here, you have all of the support needed to navigate this portion of your journey. All right, my absolutely beautiful Virgos, I love you a ton. Please share with me how your month is unfolding in the comment section down below. I love you, and I will see you in a very busy July. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Libra friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026, which is just wild. But Libra, this is a big month for us because we've got several major things that are happening that are definitely going to shift the vibration of energy. And one of the things that was really apparent for me looking at Libra astrology for this month is that it looks like what is really expanding for you, Libra, is your vision. But first, you're being asked to get really, really real about where you want to go and who is going with you. So this is a major theme, and I'm curious, and I would love to hear from you in the comment section down below, even as you hear me say that to you at the beginning of this horoscope. What is that bringing up for you? Let me know down below. Now we've got Jupiter moving into Leo at the end of the month. We've got Chiron moving into Taurus. This is going to bring up major questions about being Venusian, which you also are. And we've got Mercury stepping into retrograde. So plenty to be looking at as the month is unfolding. Let's jump in, Libra. Right at the beginning of the month here on the 1st, we've got Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer. This is starting to light up this 10th house space for you. As Mercury moves into Cancer, we begin to click from the intellectual logical point, like being very mentally focused in the logistical mind, and we move into the emotional intelligence and into the intuitive intelligence. So really, truly, as this is coming through and lighting up your 10th house space right here at the beginning of the month, where we're talking about your career, your reputation, your soul level calling, your responsibilities, how we see you and know you publicly, you might find yourself thinking more about a goal or a direction or something in your profession that you want to be doing. And it's going to be something that you're building long term, but emotionally. You're not thinking about it from the perspective of logically, does this just make sense? It's around, how do I feel about being an authority figure? Who are my authority figures? And these things feel more personal than normal. And the thing I really want to point out to you here is that this is not a what do I do kind of question, kind of energy. This is a does this actually feel right? Or what are my feelings around it? And like the feelings and the logic are coming together in some kind of processing here. Now, just a few days later on June 12th, we'll actually see that Mercury is going to move into its pre-retrograde shadow time position at 16 degrees of Cancer. So please make sure you locate that on your actual natal chart so you can see where is this 16 degrees in your personal chart. In the general, this is going to be the tour of the 10th house. So really paying attention around the 12th to what starts coming up between the 12th and the 29th, because that's what you're going to work on for this entire Mercury retrograde cycle as Mercury's going back through this area. But as of the 12th, any conversations that come up, any plans for a direction of your career, or maybe a thought and you're moving towards it, but it feels unfinished or unresolved in some way, or you just haven't been able to put the cherry on the top of that cake just yet, that's okay. This is not the time where everything's going to lock in. This is the time where you want to stay flexible, stay open, because as this retrograde goes back, you'll review what's going on. And then in August, you'll really put the cherry on the cake and bring it to a close. Now, before that, I want to come back to June 7th, because I think that this is important. Venus, your ruling planet, is coming back in bounds as we're here on the 7th. And this is a big deal, I think, because when a planet goes out of bounds, it's outside of the governance of the sun. So it can do whatever it wants. It's outside of its normal range. So we get a bit more intensity of it. So as Venus has been out of bounds, things in your career, conversations around money, things having to do with social dynamics, your need for validation, maybe in some way, these things could have been a lot more intense, or you felt extra sensitive around these things. And now as Venus comes back in bounds, first of all, bring the things that you saw. Bring the lessons that you learned. Did you have to learn more about really being in a position of receiving and letting things come to you? Something about rest, whatever it was, bring it into Venus coming back in bounds so that it can help you settle. Because as Venus comes back and things stabilize, and your connection with this energy feels more balanced, more easy, you can also integrate everything that Venus saw when she got out to infinity and beyond. And then on the 13th, we'll see Venus move into the vibration of Leo, which is nice because you are air, Venus is fire. This is a nice combination. So as Venus is moving here, it lights up your 11th house space of friends, social connection, social media, science, technology, but it's also about your tribe and where you belong, because where you belong is going to help you get to your future goals. What do you want for yourself? right? Now, Venus is a calling in. So this is your cue that as Venus is doing this transit, to let the friends come to you, accept the social support, accept the warmth, accept the opportunity, accept the money, accept the connection as they flow towards you. It can also make finding your tribe a little bit easier because people are more open to you. They're more open to the collaboration. They're more open to an offer that you're going to be making. Now, just be mindful. This is still Leo energy, and there is some need for approval and validation because we do our art so that what we love can come out of us. But you're still valid and your idea is still valuable, even if the people outside of you are not giving you that full applause. When we get to the 14th, we've got a new moon happening here in Gemini. This is going to light up your 9th house space, fellow air energy. Now, on the same day, at the same time, we have got Mercury coming back inbounds as well. I think this is precious for this particular full moon or new moon, because as Mercury went out of bounds, when Mercury's out of bounds, the ideas, the information, they're flowing. It's fast, particularly in Gemini. There's so much going on, but there were new ideas, new connections, and new perspectives that were presented to you when Mercury was out of bounds. So at this new moon in Gemini, plant your seeds of intention. Where are you feeling inspired to learn something new? A new perspective came to you. Where are you feeling inspired to travel, to teach, to look at your faith and what you believe in your faith? You know, this is a moment where your vision has the possibility to expand. And whatever you plant here, it's going to start growing over this next 27 months. So if your 9th house area was not looking as lush as you like it to, or it was time to grow, Mercury out of bounds brought you a gift of a little bit of a different kind of seed to plant in your garden that's going to blossom a whole new direction for you. Now, on the 19th, we see that Chiron is going to move into Taurus. And we will have Chiron in this position of Taurus for 2026 until September, and then we'll take a little mini break, and then we'll come back to it. But this shift is, I think, a pretty important deal because Chiron is our wounded healer. But Chiron is also our greatest teacher, right? There's magic in this position for us. But we need to look at the wounded side first, because as this lights up your 8th house space of intimacy and assets, death, debt, taxes, astrology lives in the 8th house. This begins some kind of long-term healing process around your vulnerability with being seen here, with trust, with vulnerability, with debt, with these kind of concepts. And Chiron here, we become more aware of what the patterns are in how I trust, how I emotionally share, how I put my vulnerability out there. What's my relationship with money or other people's money? What's my relationship with fear, loss, control? These things all come to the surface, and it can bring discomfort. This can be uncomfortable. You know, are there certain secrets that you're keeping and the story is some kind of protection around them or something like that? Or was there an old system of dealing with money that's not showing up as functional here anymore? The other side of this that I think can be challenging is, again, the relationship with Venus. What is your relationship with Venus, with rest, with receiving, with being soft but empowered? And what does that mean to you? So there are some places here where the discomfort presents itself, but you're being asked to feel what is unfamiliar here for the healing, even though it's scary. Now, the other side, the magical magi part of this Chiron, is that you may have people coming your direction who are unhealed in this area. And because you maybe have more healing skills, training, whatever it is, you're able to, in a deeper purpose, help them see how to build trust, which also helps this Chiron area of your chart as well. So please keep me posted in the comment section down below how that's showing up for you. Now, on the 21st, we see the sun move into the vibration of Cancer, and the Cancer area has been lush, it has been busy. Mercury's retrograde over here. But as the sun comes now, it's bringing light, heat, life, and vitality. So you are motivated in this career area. You know, you might be becoming more seen or you feel like you're seeing yourself more in your own role in the world. And it's a really great time to review and to step into your responsibilities, but it's in a way that feels very emotionally aligned. Now, again, because Mercury is retrograde at this time, it's not just about success. This is not just about do it, get it done, hold your responsibilities, succeed. It is about, is this meaningful? Is this in alignment for me? What are the emotions around this particular area of your chart? On the 29th, Mercury takes the actual retrograde at 26 degrees and 15 minutes of Cancer. Now, as Mercury goes retrograde officially, we're not hiding under rocks or doing anything like that, but it is in the 10th house. So all of those things that were really pouring in from the beginning of the month, but certainly from the 12th of the month until now, they're going under review. You're reviewing past decisions in your career, past conversations, past negotiations, past paths, your current professional path, and if this is the one that you want to be on. And when I say your current professional path, remember I'm also saying what you do in public that we see you doing. Do we call you mom? Do we call you uncle? Do we call you CEO? Do we call you volunteer? You're questioning this, and any questioning that comes up for review at this time is just about refinement. This is not setback, it's step back and refine this kind of energy. Now, on the 30th, as we close out this month, we'll see Jupiter enter into the vibration of Leo, back to this 11th house energy. And the first place we want to go is back to 2014 and what was happening for you in this area of your chart the last time Jupiter was visiting the friends, the tribe, the new grouping, the technology, the social spaces, the organizations, right? So what was happening for you at that time? Because if you look at, was I connecting with people? Was my tribe growing in some way, shape, or form? Now, whatever you learned from that time frame, you get to bring that rhythm forward with you now, but you're wiser. You're wiser. And Jupiter acts as like a guardian angel to protect you while you're learning, right? So yes, Jupiter is a benefic, but sometimes the way we get the benefit of something is by having the experience to gain the wisdom. I'll be creating a separate video on this so we can go more into it, but look for Jupiter to be coming to this 11th house for you, prepared and ready to expand, and you have some on-the-site tools, particularly if you were alive to experience it in 2014. All right, my absolutely brilliant Libra friends, I love you a ton, and I look forward to seeing you in a very busy July. Bye, Libra. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Scorpio friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026, where Scorpio, this month, you are definitely being asked to grow and to expand some perspectives and beliefs that you've had, but it's around not controlling it so much. It's about leaning more into the trust, into the intimacy, and to where your beliefs in this area can help you expand into a new direction. Now, it is a busy month, not as busy as July, but we have plenty going on this month. We have got Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo, a fellow fixed sign, at the end of this month. And this is going to take us back into your life into 2014. And we're going to be looking at, where did you expand in your career last time? We'll talk all about that. But we've also got Chiron moving into Taurus, giving you a season. This is going to begin a season of really digging into some things in your relationship zone. And we've also got Mercury stepping into its retrograde. So a nice long season in water as it's going retrograde in Cancer. All right, Scorpio, let's jump in and talk about what the month has going on. Now, at the beginning of the month on the 1st, we see Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer. And this is going to light up your 9th house space of publishing, marketing, broadcasting. It's bringing your attention to your faith and your beliefs and your philosophies, because they guide the direction of your life. Now, for those of you taking on things like international travel or higher education, this is definitely on your mind as well. But we switch the tone here and we move from the purely logical mercurial energy where we're thinking, making fast decisions, getting all of the mental minutia going. And you're finding yourself thinking more about, like, what is the meaning of life? You know, you're getting more into the deeper emotional intelligence and intuitive intelligence terrain. And that is the place where you might be shifting on a path that you're already on, or you're shifting in a new direction because you've become someone else. There is a much deeper conversation connected to your spirituality and your beliefs instead of just gathering information. Now, when we get to the 12th of this month, we're going to see Mercury actually step into its pre-retrograde shadow time position. This will be at 16 degrees of Cancer. So make sure you locate that 16 degrees of Cancer on your personal chart so you can see where it's actually happening for you. But as we see Mercury come into this pre-retrograde shadow time right here in your 9th house, anything could happen coming up around your beliefs, around education, around a larger worldview, travel. All of these things could be coming up, but they feel like they're not completed or you don't have the full story. It's almost like it's unfolding or in process, right? And you really might think, Scorpio, that you have your mind made up about something. This is what I'm doing. And as this Mercury retrograde is going to actually unfold, you realize there's more to understand, and it's in that emotional and spiritual terrain. So I would say it's always great to be open-minded, but as of the 12th, really around these things in your life, stay open, listen with your intuitive sacred ears, and try to avoid making anything certain at this particular time, except for what you're hearing in that intuitive whisper. On the 7th, I want to step back for just a minute. We're going to see that Venus is going to come back in bounds. Now, Venus in May went out of bounds, and we talked about that in your May 2026 horoscope. But when a planet goes out of bounds, it's outside of its normal range. It's outside of the governance of the sun. So things can be more exaggerated or more unpredictable. It's very hard to regulate because they're outside of their normal terrain. Now, with Venus going out of bounds, or any planet going out of bounds, something that also happens to our benefit is we learn things outside of our normal terrain. So hopefully some of the things you were able to learn had a lot to do with how to receive, or where you're feeling like your creative cup really needs to be filled a lot more. And it could have been like your responses to this were bigger or more exaggerated than normal. That's very common. Or you wanted to spend more. You wanted to fill your own cup harder, more, better, because it was a little bit more extreme. Now, as Venus comes back in bounds here on the 7th, it's like it helps to stabilize some of the things that you maybe saw when Venus went outside of the normal terrain, and now you can integrate it, particularly as we're looking into things having to do with, you'll be able to take them into the things that have to do with your career. I'm really excited actually to see what you do with it, because it would have been new levels of value that you understood. So maybe you're charging more, maybe the way that you value money is different, something like that. When we get to the 13th, Venus is then going to move into the vibration of Leo and start to light up this 10th house space for you. Venus is a calling in. It's calling in, but in the 10th house, while it's calling in, you become really acceptable at a public level. They're like, oh, that person is so warm. Scorpio is so warm, so attractive. You know, it makes people really a lot more, you're much more attractive to people, and they soften to you. It could also be a beautiful financial connection in some kind of career or reputation path that we see you in. So it's a beautiful time for being seen, and let yourself receive from being seen. Now, again, if you struggle with any of these visibility wounds, receiving support or having help, being more trusting in the work that you're doing, or finances flowing towards you, this is a perfect place to step into the Venus Reset program. Disconnection from Venus will put all of those things off of the table for us. So we take a minute to respond and get reconnected, because as you have these transits coming through, you want to be able to lean into the vibration that they're bringing to your attention. Recognition is nice, but it might not be the whole story, particularly if you don't feel comfortable stepping out. On the 14th, we've got a new moon happening in Gemini, which lights up your 8th house space. But at the same time, we've got Mercury coming back in bounds as well. Now, when Mercury went out of bounds, Mercury out of bounds feels like a Mercury out of bounds. It's like so many ideas, so many thoughts, so many perspectives, so much information, and it's not always the same information, right? But hopefully, as Mercury was out of bounds and you gained new perspectives, new information, new ideas, you're able to see things in a couple different directions. You can bring that in as you're planting your seeds of intention to begin something new here in your 8th house, the house of intimacy and assets. We are going to be planting seeds of intention that over this next 27 months, for you to be able to have a different relationship with your shared resources, with vulnerability, with sex, with trust, with emotional truths, with death, with debt, right? But again, you have a new chapter starting here with fresh perspectives that your Mercury out of bounds time would have brought to your attention. On the 19th, we have got Chiron stepping into Taurus, and this is important. This is going to begin a long healing process with your conscious chosen one-on-one relationships. This is partnerships, whether they're romantic or not, important relationships in your life, people who are open enemies in some way, like you know that you have an issue with them. And sometimes you can be your own open enemy, or a higher power can be an open enemy, right? So I just want you to think about that. But we see and we treat Chiron in astrology as our wounded healer, but I also like it as the Magi teacher. In the wounded healer position here in your 7th house, it can bring pain to the surface around your relationships because it's where the wound is at. It's where it's very painful. You know, you feel like you cannot trust people, or it's surfacing about trust, about secrecy, about security, about abandonment, about rejection, about fear in relationships. Yeah, I never fully feel safe, dealing with death, or feeling like there's some kind of debt that is going on. There could be physical debt or debt that you are owed. You know, you may notice that there are some old patterns that have resurfaced and they're getting your attention. Maybe you are holding yourself back from an ability to be connected to your Venus, which is what Taurus is ruled by, an ability to receive, to be seen, to move with less effort, right? I don't have to do the most in my relationships. These can be real pain points that come to the surface. Now, I'm going to make a separate video just about Chiron because it needs its whole own conversation. But sometimes Chiron in the 7th can also show up as this realization that you've been trying to create safety by controlling different pieces of the relationship, reading every signal, providing all the money, something like that. And let's be honest, Scorpio, this kind of pattern is exhausting, so it may present itself. To the other side of this, on the Magi teacher side, I think that this can be a time between now and September where you might also be attracting people to you who have these behaviors or are learning these lessons because you've already healed here. You know, it's not just all the wound, the wound, the wound. Sometimes what happens is the wound becomes your greatest teaching aspect. Or maybe you had loads of debt and you've learned a way to come out of that, and you're able to share that with someone else and set them free from their own wound. Whatever it is, the wisdom is developing during this transit. So keep your eye on it because it's actually the medicine. On the 21st, the sun moves into Cancer, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality to your 9th house where it's already busy. We've got Mercury doing its retrograde over here as well. So you're motivated in the 9th house to do your publishing, your marketing, your broadcasting, or to explore, to go back over, to review, exploration, teaching, study, travel, something like this, because we are still in Mercury retrograde. So it's a time to let your perspective grow from a position of emotional, intuitive curiosity while you're also reviewing the landscape of this 9th house area of your life. So I won't be surprised if some of you say, I'm going back to school, or I'm going back to the country where my grandparents were from, or something like that. On the 29th, we see Mercury going retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer. Now, as Mercury takes this retrograde here again in this 9th house space, this is where we're officially jumping into the work. You know, I'm talking about when the sun moves into Cancer, we're in this retrograde position. Things have slowed down at that point, but on the 29th, Now you're heading back in. Your perspective on something really important at an emotional level around your mother, around women, around your country, around your safety, it is shifting. And this is not about losing your direction, but it is that there's something deeper and it's a different, more accurate true north for you at this particular time. Now, as we close out the month, a big transit for us this year is that Jupiter is moving into Leo. And like I said, this lights up your 10th house space. So when we're looking back at this, we do need to go back first. Let's go see where you've already been. Go back to 2014, 2015 timeframe, depending on your chart, and see what was happening for you the last time Jupiter was in Leo. What was happening in your career? What was happening in your public image? Where were you expanding? Where were you moving a bit more boldly? You were ready to go out. Now, there might have been some, it's not that it was just all good, pleasant, and you had the best time. You might have been having some experiences that expanded you and you got to learn for them. So as Jupiter is coming back and returning to this section of the chart, now you are wiser. You're like, okay, I remember what happened last time. I remember what happened last time. And it is also a reminder, because Jupiter is so expansive, that the external success means very little unless it is connected to your inner fire and integrity. So yes, you might really be looking at it from that perspective to see where you were and also see where you're at and where you're going. Again, I'm going to make a separate video just on Jupiter in and of itself. And you can also check out your yearly 2026 videos where almost all of us covered some angle of Jupiter moving into Leo, because it's a massive transit for us. All right, my beautiful Scorpio friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Please let me know in the comment section down below, particularly with this Chiron coming into Taurus. What are the stories happening for you on either the wound side or the teacher side with Chiron in Taurus in your 7th house? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love you a ton, and I will see you in a very busy July. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Sagittarian friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026. And Sagittarius, for you, it's not a surface month. It is a let's get real about what's actually happening in my life and in my relationships kind of month. But this is nothing to be feared. You know, how you connect with others and how that impacts your growth is just what's on the table. It's a very trust, vulnerability, shared resources space, and I think you have all that it takes. Now, we've also got big news. Your ruling planet Jupiter is moving into fellow fire energy of Sagittarius. This lights up your 9th house space, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, travel. There's some kind of, you're taking an expansion out into the world in some way, shape, or form. And I can't wait to talk about what that looks like for you in your chart. But we've also got Chiron moving into Taurus. This is a long story of healing and your magi teacher who comes out to also be of service to other people. It's brilliant. It's challenging, but it is brilliant. And we have Mercury going retrograde this month. So we'll talk about all of that in this video. Starting right at the top on June 1st, we have got Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer. This for you, Sagittarius, lights up this 8th house space. So here we are in this conversation about intimacy and assets, right? It's where we really are sharing joint space with another entity, whether that be a person, whether that be a bank, whether that be life. Because in the 8th house, we remember that day to day, we walk hand in hand alongside of death as much as we do life. So there is this place of the understanding of the deeper, more emotional side of work that is happening here on the spiritual side. Mercury in Cancer, we switch from the purely intellectual propositions that we're dealing with life and figuring out all the details, and we're moving into the emotional and intuitive intelligence. And sometimes a decision has been made. I made this decision. I'm going to rent this apartment. I'm going to move in here. This is my best life. And underneath it, you move into the apartment and you're like, I don't feel like this is my space. I feel disconnected from my friends or my family, right? Something like that. It's what's in the emotional undercurrent. So these conversations around intimacy, trust, finances, collaborative dynamics from the emotional level will definitely be on the table. Now, for those of you who are needing to make decisions, let's say it's insurance, real estate, inheritance. You want to take out a loan or something like this. Mercury here is going to also have you making those decisions because Mercury is still Mercury. I want you to be paying attention though, Sagittarius, because on the 12th, Mercury is going to step into its pre-retrograde shadow time. So this is going to be at 16 degrees of Cancer. And this is some indicator that Mercury is starting to slow down and ask you to take a look at the 16 degrees to 26 degrees and go, hold on. Anything happening around intimacy, trust, shared responsibilities, it's time to revisit those. And it doesn't make them negative, but it does mean like you're trying to figure something out, you're trying to get a little something going, and the picture is not full or it's not exactly completing just yet. And it's just time to observe. I would really be using June to do a lot of observation because it's like, hold on, what's happening here? How am I feeling about this? What questions are being asked, and I don't need to force the answer to it, okay? On the 7th, we see Venus come back in bounds in May, and I talked about this in your May horoscope. Venus and Mercury both went out of bounds, which meant that we were gathering information outside of the normal realm of how Venus and Mercury, operate. And when a planet goes out of bounds, its experience to us can be exaggerated or more unpredictable. It's just there's an emotional heightened that comes with it. With Venus out of bounds, I hope that you are going to report to me that you learned a little something about receiving or some kind of support came to you in some way that really nourished your spirit. But it also could have felt very extreme. You're like, I want to be free. I want to expand. I want to go my own way. I want to, the validation and the need, the craving for it could have been so intense. Now, as Venus comes back into bounds, the things that you saw, those cravings for freedom or for earning or whatever your Venusian conversation was, they can start to settle. And a sense of direction begins to pour in a more grounded and realistic kind of way. Just after that, on the 13th, Venus is going to move into the vibration of Leo. This is back into the 9th house space. I shouldn't say back. This is into your 9th house space, publishing, marketing, broadcasting. But Venus is an attracting in energy. So you're literally calling in opportunity, money, travel could be on your table, getting your attention. It is a great time for learning, teaching, making content, going to school, expanding yourself out into the world, and then allowing that support to flow towards you, right? And it's more about that this Venus here and Leo is aligned with a truth that's really important to you. It's really important. It's Leo. It's like, my expression of what I value is this thing, and then I let it come to me. On the 14th, we've got a new moon that's happening right across the street in Gemini, lighting up your 7th house place. Now, we've got this new moon where we're going to plant our seeds of intention, and you have a reset around new relationships in your life or relationships in your life in general. And at the same time, Mercury is coming back in bounds. Now, Mercury out of bounds gave you probably too many new perspectives, too many new ideas, too much information, and two different sides of information. Is it this? Is it this? Like too many options. But hopefully, as this new moon is coming on, you can take those new connections, new dynamics, new perspectives, and use them to plant the next best relationship garden for yourself. And it's going to blossom over the next 27 months. You might begin to understand as you're planting this garden what you need from other people and what other people are willing to give. It's a very back and forth dynamic in your relationships, but it is a powerful time for you, Sagittarius, to begin something new in your relationship life, while still letting things unfold as we're heading into retrograde time of Mercury, the ruling planet of this lunation. On the 19th, Chiron is moving into Taurus, lighting up your 6th house space, and this is a big deal. First of all, I'm going to just say, if you have a Taurus in your life or go to the Taurus area of your chart, there may be something painful that comes up for you around this, right? But there could also be something, this is a long-term healing process with Chiron here. There might be something that is very healing for you in this as well, because Chiron is our wounded healer where we have the wound. It hurts here. But it's also the Magi teacher where it's the greatest medicine that we have to offer to others. Now, in your 6th house, this could be healing and you're looking at things around your daily routines, your health, your wellness, your body, your physical well-being, your ability to allow resources and relationships to flow towards you. You know, you might begin to notice, Sagittarius, some patterns where you feel really overwhelmed, overworked, unsupported in your day-to-day life. And, you know, you maybe weren't feeling like this a couple months ago. You were like, no, I can carry it all. That's a very Taurian kind of attitude. There can be pain around feeling like you're doing all of the right things. So why am I not receiving in return? You can become more aware of how your habits, particularly around your body or your health, really impact your overall day-to-day stability. This is the healing side of the transit. It's bringing the stuff to the surface for you to be able to acknowledge it. Now, to the Magi side, I think that if this is a place that you have mastery, genuine mastery, right? There's no pain point for you here necessarily anymore. You could also be attracting people to you, and they're struggling here. You know, they don't know how to set up or get away from old habits. And so you're able to show them or talk to them about how you create and build routines in your life that actually nourish you and nourish your energy instead of draining it. So this is where you really move from that place of like, this is very like Lagatia Academy, but you move from the burnout section to more balance, to more, I can receive. I have a relationship with rest. I don't feel guilty when I rest. I don't feel guilty when people help me or bring me things or love me. It's very intentional living. On the 21st, we see the sun enter into the vibration of Cancer, now bringing light, heat, life, and vitality into this 8th house dynamic. So you're motivated. You're motivated to deal with intimacy, assets, trust, vulnerability, death, debt, taxes, inheritance. You're willing to do astrology, but it's a much more introspective, emotional time. And again, I do want to say that I think you're engaging in life in a way that is bringing more of your dynamics of how you engage joint dynamics and resources. So it can be a little bit more uncomfortable because you're seeing a way that you need to grow. But man, when you get it, the bond is really strong. On the 29th, we see Mercury stepping into its retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer. So now all of those things in this 8th house area that have been coming up, particularly since the 12th, now you're going to be in review of them, and we'll really be in review until we get into August. Make some space for miscommunications, but make a lot of space to enjoy your review period as well. At the end of the month, on the 30th, we see Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo, and this is a major shift for us. So the first place we want to go, Sagittarius, is back. We want to go back to 2014. What was happening for you in your 9th house area of your chart? Were you doing something in publishing, marketing, broadcasting, higher education? Did you travel? Where were you expanding? Where was your perspective and understanding of life expanding? Where were you stepping forward to broaden your horizons? Well, now, as we step into it, and to be clear, it doesn't mean that that time was super fun, because you might have also been gaining the experience that allows you to have the wisdom that you now bring to the table as this transit is back to you. Sagittarius, it's very realistic that you might be traveling, you might be moving in order to grow your life. And sometimes Jupiter can act as a step back, or you have to step in a different way to review your perspective in this area. But it gives you your fire back, your Leo, and your ability to expand. Jupiter acts as our guardian angel, so it is time to grow. But the growth has to be rooted in your fire and in the truth for this area of your chart. And as soon as you find it, the sky's the limit and anything is possible. All right, my absolutely beautiful Sagittarian friends, I love you a ton. Please keep me posted on how the month is unfolding for you, and let me know about this 2014 time. What were you doing? What were you getting into? Because I'm curious where it's going to take you this time. All right, my absolutely beautiful Sagittarian friends, I love you, and I'll see you in July. Brilliant and beautiful Capricorn friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026, where Capricorn this month, the real-time theme as I was kind of going through it is that you're being asked here, or you're being
provided with cosmic inspiration to rebalance or review how much you give, how much you receive, what's actually yours, and what might not be yours anymore. So it's a pretty powerful month for adjusting your life and using it in that way. Now we've got Jupiter moving into Leo, which is a massive transit for us coming out of Cancer, where it's been working and expanding your relationship zone. And now it's going to be about looking into your 8th house space. We've also got Chiron moving into the vibration of fellow Earth sign of Taurus. And this is going to light up a healing process and a teaching process as well around your relationship with joy, pleasure, play, new beginnings, taking a risk, and of course, some things for your children. And let's not forget that in this beautiful energy of your relationships, we're also going to do a Mercury retrograde. So plenty going on, Capricorn. Please make sure you have your own individual natal chart so you can see where it's happening in your chart. But now let's jump into where it's happening in the general. At the beginning of the month, we see Mercury move into the vibration of Cancer. So now this lights up your 7th house space, conscious chosen one-on-one relationships, whether those be romantic relationships, they be business relationships, mentorship, you and your relationship with a higher power, maybe an open enemy that you have, you know you're in conflict with someone, something like this. But as Mercury comes into Cancer, we're not just looking for the details now. Your focus becomes emotional, right? Like you're feeling and thinking about what you're feeling in your conscious chosen one-on-one relationships. Certainly things around your security, your family, your mother, your women in your life. These could all be coming up, but the conversations that are happening throughout June for you feel more emotional. And you might be more emotionally aware of how other people are responding to you as well. So it is a great time during this transit to listen as much as you speak. Now, on the 12th, we're going to see that Mercury moves into its pre-retrograde shadow time position at 16 degrees of Cancer. So you're going to start to watch what is slowing down for you or what's starting to come up in terms of conversation or thoughts in your relationship zone. And it feels like they're not quite getting finished, or something is hanging, or you feel really solid about something in your relationship only to realize later there's a little bit more to discuss. And it would be coming from the emotional or intuitive content place. So I would say as of the 12th, taking this retrograde all the way through August, the full entirety of it, pre-retrograde shadow time and post-retrograde shadow time, stay open, stay willing to revisit these ideas, and particularly the ideas of the feelings that you're having in your relationships. As we get to the 13th, we see that Venus has now come back in bounds from being out of bounds last month, where things could have been more exaggerated. You could have been feeling more intensely, you're feeling, you're desiring, you're craving more intensely validation in some way, or you're feeling like an emotional need is not being met, but it feels more intense than it does when Venus is in bounds. Then we get to the 13th and Venus moves into Leo, lighting up your 8th house space. Now Venus is hopefully bringing some of these lessons and sentiments from the out of bounds time into the 8th house. How do you receive? What's your relationship with rest, with surrender, without shame, without guilt? You know, can you receive support without feeling shameful or guilty? Also, if Venus moves into this 8th house place, there's a warmth that comes with it, but it is 8th house intensity as well. So there's the intensity of trust, of intimacy, of emotional and affectionate well-being, the balance and the dynamic in your relationship. So this can be a pretty powerful transit for you for connection. It's going to highlight how you give, how you receive, and what happens after you give or you receive. Do you give something and that really makes your cup fill up? But then when you're receiving something, you feel shameful or you feel like you're not allowed to be vulnerable like that. What's the story that happens in the 8th house? And you may also begin to notice where there's some overextension. Venus is to move into the soft, but it's more about also moving into balance. So where there's overextension, overdoing, overgiving, holding back, Venus will be revealing this as well. On the 14th, we see that we've got a new moon happening in Gemini, and this is going to light up the 6th house area of your chart. Now, Mercury comes back in bounds at the same time. So as Mercury is coming back inbounds into your chart, when it was out of bounds, it gathered so many ideas, so much information, so many perspectives. There was like a dichotomy of information going on, and it could have felt like a lot in May. And now, as Mercury comes back inbounds, hopefully you're using any new ideas or perspectives that you found out while Mercury was out of bounds to plant yourself this new, fresh, delicious reset in your garden of life, to begin something new here. You know, you're starting new habits, new routines, you have new information. You know it's not just exhaustion. Maybe it's something going on with your hormones, or you know that it's not just something in your head, but you have new information that explains something else. But it causes you to come into a position where you can literally restructure the way that you speak to yourself, the word magic that you're using, how you engage your day-to-day life, your schedule, and your daily responsibilities. On the 19th, Chiron moves into Taurus, lighting up your 5th house space. And this is big news because Chiron works as our wounded healer. So we definitely have a wound here, but also this sacred teacher magi that comes out of us, where we can move from the wound to help others who are still in the wound, right? You have a unique perspective of the healing journey in this area. Now, as Chiron enters the 5th, we're looking at joy, pleasure, play, and your relationship with it. You know, it's a healing time. It's a long healing process around your creativity, around your self-expression, where you want to begin something new. Connections to pleasure, certainly things with your children as well. So you might become more aware of where you are holding yourself back, where your relationship with Venus will absolutely come into call. What is your relationship with pleasure? What's your relationship with receiving? Again, I call you, if you have a pain point around this, I call you into the Venus Reset program. I offer you a beautiful invitation, because when you're noticing where you prioritize just responsibility over pleasure, like maybe you literally cannot not do it, this is a place where your creative abilities and the soft mind are not firing in your greatest favor. So looking at where this Chiron transit is bringing that to your attention. Now, to the other side, it can make you a very, very powerful guide for other people, because you have learned this. You show them how to balance responsibility with pleasure. You show them how to balance responsibility and obligation with being authentic as well. So I'm very curious, Capricorn, let me know in the comment section down below, where are you at present with your relationship with the Chiron Taurus area of your chart? On the 21st, the sun now moves into the vibration of Cancer, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, and a motivation to move and to be more aware of the dynamics that are happening in your conscious chosen one-on-one relationships. And we're moving towards this Mercury retrograde. We're in pre-retrograde shadow time for the next couple days. So this desire to show up fully and in a balanced and secure way in your relationships, or to create more emotional and intuitive intelligence and safety in your relationships, this will really be at the forefront, because you don't want to be like giving too much or receiving too much. We're really looking for some level of emotional securing and balancing this area. On the 29th, we see Mercury moving into its retrograde time. This will be at 26 degrees of Cancer. So we're keeping an eye on between 16 degrees and 26 degrees of Cancer for your retrograde re-education. You're rewiring, reviewing, revising, re-looking at yourself, rethinking how you communicate, rethinking what's happening in your relationships. And remember, it's not a time where you have to rush. This is not necessarily a rushed relationship kind of thing. It's more about understanding them intuitively and deeply, and giving space for them to process and unfold. When we close out the month on the 30th, we've got Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo, lighting up the 8th house space for you. And the first place we need to go, Capricorn, is back. What were you doing in 2014? Where were you expanding? This is a major shift. It's only here once every 12 years. So have a reflection. It's a time of growth. What were you growing in terms of trust, vulnerability, shared resources, sex, debt, taxes, control. What was happening for you there? In the 8th house, it's never just some kind of light and fluffy energy. That's not what we're doing in the 8th house. It's where we have to go to die off so that we can transform. I'll be creating a separate video on the Jupiter in Leo in general, but go back into 2014 into your own chart, whatever house this actually sits in your chart, and see what was the expansion that was happening there. And I want to point out as well that just because we're talking about Jupiter and this lovely expansion doesn't mean that it was easy. You're coming into this cycle with wisdom that you learned back in 2014, likely from having a bit of experience. And experience is very experiential. So Capricorn, please let me know, what were you doing in 2014-15? Look out for the Jupiter in Leo video as well so we can get more into the nitty-gritty of it. Share with us how June is going for you in the comment section down below. I love you a ton, Capricorn, and I'll see you in a very busy July. My absolutely brilliant and beautiful Aquarian friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026, where Aquarius this month you're being asked to create a lifestyle for yourself that actually feels good to live in day to day. And we're also going to be looking at some dynamics that are popping up in your relationships, particularly with Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo. We'll also see that Venus goes into Leo this month as well. But the two bigger ticket items, yes, I think bigger than Jupiter going into Leo, are that Chiron is going to move into the vibration of Taurus. This is a fellow fixed energy. So something is beginning a pretty long attention-grabbing process for you around the Chiron issues, the Taurian issues in the home, family, real estate, your property, where there's been pain points here and where there's also been a fair amount of healing. And then, of course, we've got Mercury going retrograde. And I think that's a bigger deal because we tend to feel the personal planet movements more than the outer planet or the transpersonal planet ones. So you will likely run into some miscommunications and definitely be under review as we step into this Mercury retrograde. So Aquarius, let's jump in and see what the month has waiting for you. On the 1st, we've got Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer. Now, this is going to light up your 6th house space of day-to-day routines, your health, your wellness, coworkers. Cancer energy is, it can be a bit pinchy when it comes to things happening with coworkers and day-to-day routine. So as Mercury is moving here, you're moving from this position of being highly logical and just mentally intellectual. And we're moving into the space of emotional intelligence into this 6th house space. We're moving into intuitive intelligence. So you might find yourself thinking more about your schedule in terms of, does this actually support my energy emotionally, neurologically? In my responsibilities in my current lifestyle, is it sustainable for me? Or am I not able to get enough sleep? Am I not able to nurture and secure myself? So your thinking is going to start to come in a Cancerian way to your day-to-day routines. I will tell you, I think it is an absolute transit from now until August to be looking at, are you living in a way that is sustainable to your body and to your energy? Or is it still kind of this dance and it's okay to be working on it where you're just pushing through? Now we'll see that Mercury moves into its pre-retrograde shadow time position on the 12th at 16 degrees of Cancer. So as Mercury comes into this pre-retrograde shadow time, things will start to slow down, or anything happening around your routines, your health, your wellness, your company, your daily responsibilities, they'll need to be revisited as we're going through this Mercury retrograde. So just start to take a little bit of note. If things come up, but it feels like they don't get all the way finished, what is that? It can also be that logically you thought you really had something figured all the way out. You're like, done and dusted, put it in the bag. And now you're like, oh, hold on. There's a little bit more to be discussed because it needs to be adjusted from an emotional and intuitive perspective. So I would say it's a time to stay flexible during this Mercury retrograde cycle all through this Cancerian energy. And if you can avoid locking yourself
into something that is not flexible, I think that this would be the best use of this particular energy. But also look forward to making decisions and remaking decisions as we travel between now and August in this area. On the 13th, we see that Venus is now back in bounds, having gone out of bounds in May, and will now be moving forward into the vibration of Leo. Now, Venus is not a hustle hard planet. Venus is an attracting in planet. So into your relationship house, 7th house, conscious, chosen one-on-one relationships, whether they be business, romantic, open enemies. So you know you have a court case or an issue with someone. And I like to put your relationship with your higher power, whatever you call that, into this zone as well. So as Venus comes, it is softening and welcoming in and calling in connection and calling in support to the relationships. If there have been some pokey edges, Venus is going to help to soften those things, right? But also you may just feel more open to connection at this point and the receiving portion of it, Aquarius. How do I allow myself to actually receive in my relationships and then to express? How do I realize, or what do I realize is the significance or important to partnerships in my life, right? What's the value of them? Venus will be bringing a lot of conversation to this particular area. On the 14th, we've got a new moon that is happening in Gemini. And if you notice, this is our only moon this month because we had 3 moons happening in May. So this is your one opportunity to really get this lunar dose besides traveling with all the Cancerian energy. So we're planting our seeds of intention with this new moon in Gemini. At the same time, Mercury is coming back in bounds this day as well. So as you're planting your seeds of intention, you're doing it with some of the new experiences and new perspectives that Mercury out of bounds brought into your table. New ideas where you feel a new connection, a new passion, or you're just more informed about where you'd like to make this fresh start in your 5th house. Joy, pleasure, play, creativity, your self-expression. For some of you Aquarians, this will be things happening around your children. So look at where can you bring more livelihood or a more creative and curious perspective to what's happening in this area. And remember, what you plant now, you're going to work on growing for the next 27 months. So be very, very choosy. On the 19th, we've got Chiron moving into the vibration of Taurus, and I do think that this is a big deal because, one, Chiron, we talk about being the wounded healer, so we know this wound quite deeply. It hurts, and when something comes around and it flicks on your Chiron or a Chiron placement, you feel it. It does get your attention, right? And this is in your 4th house, home, family, real estate, property, your roots, your foundations, the child even within you. And does that child within, is it healed enough to trust the adult version of you that's out in the world or the adults that have been around it as it was growing up? So as Chiron does come here in the wounded part and the pain part, it's a long-term healing process, and we're beginning this between now and September of 2026, and then we'll go back to it after that. But you might become more aware of patterns from your past in relationships, particularly that have shaped what you believe around support. This is a Taurus placement, which means it's ruled by Venus. So how do you Venus? How do you soften? How do you receive support? How do you receive money? Do you allow yourself to rest without shame? You know, maybe you're revisiting as this Chiron comes up, old feelings or old questions about what home really means to you, particularly in terms of your body. Do you feel at home in your own body? Now, the healing side, the magi, the teacher side of Chiron is also about you maybe have already healed past this and have learned to build a new foundation, or you're continuing to be in that healing process of building that foundation under you. And now someone else or something is coming into your life and you're showing them the way out. You're teaching someone else how they can build their own new foundation for themselves, how they can receive without needing to be in shame, or they're able to take care of their bodies in different way without the shame, right? It's a really powerful transit. I will look absolutely forward to hearing what you share with me about your experience. Now, I'm going to do a separate video on the Chiron in Taurus in general, but I want you to start thinking about how this area is lighting up in your personal chart. On the 21st, we see the sun moving into Cancer, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality to this busy 6th house area. Mercury's headed into its retrograde on the 29th at 26 degrees of Cancer. So not only are you have more focus and more motivation in the 6th house area, you're feeling more motivated to organize your life to get things together, but you're also doing that while Mercury is retrograding. So what a great time to bring intention to how you live and move and have your being in a day-to-day way. And it's not about push harder. This will not be about push harder, push harder, push harder. It's about refining. That's what we're doing with this much focus in this area. As we're going to close out the month on the 30th, we'll see that Jupiter is moving into Cancer. And yes, this is a big transit for us. It's a major transit. One of our tutors is switching signs. So it is impactful. But first things first, we want to go back before we really step forward. What was happening in your life, Aquarius, between 2014, 2015 in this Leo area of your chart? What was happening for you around relationships? Were you expanding? Were you challenged? Were you finding more mutual and greater depth of connection in your partnerships? What was happening here? Now, as you consider that, you are wiser during this transit now. So as your relationships expand, some of the experience that you had before, you're bringing the wisdom to that expansion, right? You're able to be more honest in your relationships, or you're just learning that, so that you see how the wisdom of this dynamic and the wisdom of your own self-expression actually brings alignment into your relationship dynamics. Now, I'll also be creating a separate video on the Jupiter transit because it's in Leo and it deserves its own moment. But be paying particular attention to where the relationship dynamics in your life begin to expand, or you begin to have some really different experiences. All right, my beautiful Aquarian friends, this is a month of adjustment and realignment, but there's plenty of good stuff and good experiences to be had here. Practice your receiving, practice your expressing, and let me know how it is unfolding for you in the comment section down below. All right, Aquarius, I love you, and I'll see you in a very busy July. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Pisces friends, and welcome to your horoscope for June of 2026. Where Pisces this month, the action is happening through houses 4, 5, and 6 for you. And so it's this kind of interesting dynamic this month where you're being asked to really create this space in your life that feels good on the inside, from the foundations up, and not just something that maybe looks good on the outside. So it's really a month where your emotional world, your joy, your pleasure, your play, and your routines that lead to that are going to be coming into alignment. I'm quite excited for you. Now, of course, it's a very big month because one of your ruling planets, Jupiter, is going to move into fire sign of Leo. We've also got Chiron moving into Taurus, and it is a month where there's a Mercury retrograde. So plenty going on, plenty to talk through, and lots of opportunity to dig into. At the beginning of the month on the 1st, we see Mercury moving into the vibration of Cancer, a fellow water energy. And this lights up your 5th house space: joy, pleasure, play, your relationships with your children, your relationships with expressing yourself, or the courage to begin something new. But you may find yourself not thinking like a just logical mercurial energy. This energy is more about what's the emotional intelligence and intuitive intelligence behind what you're thinking about. What actually makes you happy at an emotional level? What is trying to come or flow through you emotionally and present itself. So don't be surprised if your conversations or your decisions turn more heartfelt, more emotional, more expressive, or are more connected to your creative ideas. This would be a completely normal expression here. And also don't be surprised if your children bring you some information that is of a more emotional nature. Now, Mercury is going to step into its pre-retrograde shadow time on the 12th at 16 degrees of Cancer. So as of the 12th, moving all the way in through August, which was the entirety of the Mercury retrograde cycle, I would love for you to be paying attention and staying flexible. Because as Mercury is going to retrograde here, it's like start to pay attention here on the 12th to conversations or ideas that come up, but they feel like they don't really get finished all the way. Or you start something really creatively, or a romance begins, but then it's like, it kind of feels like it's fizzling or you can't see it. It will have an adjustment later. Just make a lot of space to explore and not to finalize this area as Mercury is doing this retrograde orbit. On the 13th, we see Venus, who has now come back inbounds, moving into the vibration of Leo as well, lighting up this 6th house space. The 6th house is about your health, your wellness, your daily routines. And it's not the work you do, but it is the daily things that happen in your work to get the work done. Okay, so like if you're an independent business owner or self-employed or you have employees, it's all the little parts that make the day-to-day things happening. As Venus is flowing into this area, it is about receiving. So honestly, at some level in Leo, you may have to go to people and say, hey, I am owed set amount of money, or you're making a proposal of some variety. But it also would create with Venus here a desire for more harmony or an ease to be able to receive and create in this area of your day. So don't be surprised if you feel more motivated to improve your routines, or you're like, that doesn't work for me anymore. That is putting out my fire, Leo. Or you're wanting more validation, even if the validation is just from yourself in your daily routines. Pay attention to those daily habits and see where you can soften, receive the support, receive the finances, receive the relationships, and allow them to flow towards you. On the 14th, we've got a new moon. And if you notice, this is our only moon for the month because we had 3 last month in May. So really take advantage of this energy. Create a little ceremony for yourself. But we've got a new moon that's happening in Gemini. At the same time, the ruling planet Mercury of this lunation is back in bounds. Mercury went out of bounds last month as well. So now as Mercury is back in bounds, it brought new perspectives, new ideas, new tribes, new information, new curiosity to you, new information about it's like you just didn't have the details of something before, and now you do. So as you plant your seeds of intention this month, plant them and activate your 4th house with new knowledge. The 4th house, home, family, real estate, property, your foundations, your relationships with women or your things around your mother. There's new information or new decisions that's also been presented. So allow this to guide you as you create this beautiful reset. And remember what you're planting to begin here, for good or for ill, you're going to grow with it for the next 27 months. So please be choosy. What's the living situation you want to have? What's your connection with your family? How does your space feel when you're in it? And are you curious about changes that can be made there? Let me know in the comment section down below what's even coming up for you as I say that. When we get to the 19th, we see Chiron moving into Taurus, and this begins a long process of healing and the story of this Taurian area in your chart. A massive piece of this particular transit, and we're going to begin the practice between now and September of 2026, is about receiving. It's about all the Taurian things. Now, this lights up for you in your 3rd house space. So your thinking patterns, your mindset, your beliefs around your voice, around your body, around your value, how you receive and allow things to flow to you. You might become more aware as Chiron is here about how you speak to yourself or how others have spoken to you, and where there's this pain point in that. It can be uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable. It can feel like I've been misunderstood or I'm not being heard. It can be patterns of self-doubt that present itself. It can be looking at the mind-body connection. What are you telling your body? What's your mind telling your body about who you are and your value? Now, I also like to recognize the teacher magi energy that comes with Chiron. And that is that maybe you have done a lot of healing or you're really strong in this area, and people or places or things start to come to you and they're struggling with their voice, with their value, with receiving support or receiving compensation. And you're able to help them. So in this way, through growing through the wound, you actually become the teacher. On the 21st, the sun moves into Cancer. And on the 29th, we'll have Mercury go retrograde in Cancer at 26 degrees. So now you are quite motivated in this 5th house, right? You're feeling more alive. You're feeling more expressive. You're more connected to your joy, pleasure, play, what brings you happiness, things that need to be said. But you might be motivated to be saying and working on those things from the past. They've already happened, and now you're more aware of the emotional content that comes with them. So it's bringing those creative projects back, and you're able to work on finishing them. You're rethinking about how you express yourself. You're rethinking a romantic situation that presented itself. Your children or themes around children are being brought back up to the table and being asked you to take them a little bit more seriously, right? The sun is here. Whatever it is, this is not about stepping backwards and losing momentum. It's about let's clean up and refill in and tighten this little section and have an opportunity to refine how you're expressing yourself so that when Mercury goes forward, you can say it with your chest out and feel really good about it. As we're going to close out this month, Jupiter moves into Leo, and I will be making a separate Jupiter in Leo video because it's Leo. It deserves its own moment. But in your chart, this again brings an expansion into the 6th house space. So Pisces, think back first. When you go back into your life between 2014 and 2015, into the Leo areas of your chart, what was happening for you then? Where were you expanding in your daily routine? Where was your waistline expanding? Where was your business expanding, or your health, your fitness? Maybe you were caring for someone. Whatever it was, the opportunity to grow that routine or maybe be gathering a lot of experience in this area. You are wiser. You brought the wisdom with you this time into this area. So you might be creating a healthier lifestyle for yourself, or you're expanding out with new knowledge and new information. You might be expanding your work or your employees. This might be the season Jupiter acting as this guardian angel where you're caring for someone. So it's expanding you in that way. Either way, let's take a step back and see what you were doing before so we can see where this transit is trying to guide you forward. All right, my beautiful Pisces, I love you a ton. Please share your month with us. What's unfolding for you? Anything that really caught your attention in this breakdown, pick it up and let's talk about it in the comment section down below. I love you a ton, and I will see you in a very busy July.